The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Deshaun Watson threw for 2 touchdowns against that Giants defense, and your guy couldn't even throw for 1?
That's true.
Watson, better than Burrow. It's science. It's science. You're one measly touchdown. What a bum. What a bum.
He's a better runner than Lamar.
It's October 14th, and Deshaun Watson hasn't eclipsed 200 yards passing
How'd
in
you
the
have
game.
that ready to go so quick? It was a joke. It was a joke.
I was
Lighten
joking.
up.
I'm joking
Happy.
too.
No, it's
Let's
not,
have some
the sad
fun.
thing
It's a
is it's
bit
not a
show.
joke.
It's a bit show.
Well, keep your bits to yourself. Happy Monday. It's a victory Monday. The Bengals get a win last night, Sunday Night Football. It wasn't pretty. You heard Joe Burrow in the postgame. It was ugly.
Right.
It was ugly. But we've talked about this. We don't really care if it's ugly. We don't care about anything. We just care about getting that dub because last night, had you lost the ugly game, it's a much different vibe as we kick off the show here today. But Casey, I know you're in a good mood. You're Bengals from head to toe. Oh, wait, or are you? Or no, this isn't a – are we really sad today? What's going on? What is wrong with you?
I'm not sad. I'm just not like over
You won.
enthusiastic either. Yes, there's a win, but I'm not gonna do the false joy. I'm not gonna be jumping for joy here. We're back.
We're back.
All right. Well, you gotta get over to him because he's gonna bring you the happiness.
Oh my
that
God.
everyone sees.
Oh, no. I'm way closer to Casey.
All right, well, maybe it's one of those type of days, but a victory is a victory.
That's right.
And it is a victory Monday. And I made a mistake sending it to Casey to start, so my bad. Casey a little sad today, but still repping the Bengals from head to toe.
Yeah,
That's
it
good.
was still a win.
But Elliot, you always bring the mood up. How are you, my friend? Good morning. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was pleasant. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I listen. I'm going to probably have a different opinion than these guys on the game, and that's okay because they know that usually when the Bengals win disgusting, foul, stinky games like yesterday, I'm going to have a couple complaints, and I will. I do have some complaints about yesterday, but at the end of the day, you can play terribly and lose, or you can play terribly and win. They chose to play terribly and win. So if that's going to be the case, then I'm still going to be here with a smile on my face because you're 2-4, and now you have a little bit of life. A little bit of life here.
Yeah, I'd rather play bad and win than play great and lose anytime. So.
100%.
And that's been the majority of the season, technically.
Exactly.
On
Well, one side of the ball.
One side of the ball, yeah.
Yesterday, in all honesty, wasn't much different than the rest of the season. One side of the ball played very, very well, and one side of the ball kind of dragged their feet all game and then did just enough. I guess that was the difference, is they were able to do just enough, that being the offense. But, yeah, it was certainly very, very nice to see the defense show a pulse. So that's a great takeaway, if not anything else.
So here's the thing. I think, and I do understand why some Bengals fans are down. I noticed it on social media. You're happy with the win, no doubt. But we thought we knew this team. We thought we had this team figured out. We thought that this team was really, really bad on defense, and I'm not saying that they're not. They still are. But they stepped up last night, and they won you a football game last night, so we have to be very, very pleased about that from that perspective. But when you look at the fact that we thought we had this team figured out, Joe Burrow's perfect, the offense is perfect, Joe Burrow and the offense, they're expected to be perfect to win you football games. And if Joe Burrow is not perfect, and if the offense is not perfect, you're not going to win a lot of football games or be in position to do so. The reason that I would have a positive takeaway from last night is because the offense was far from it. The offense, turnovers, a near turnover at a crucial time of the game last night. Luckily, the fumble goes out of bounds, but there was a lot of mistakes made on the offensive side of the ball. And as Jacob said, same story. One side of the ball dominated, the other side did not. They just kind of reversed personalities for a night. The bottom line is, in a 17-game regular season, it was never fair. And this is what you guys were trying to make, the case about Joe Burrow. It's not fair to say Joe Burrow has to be perfect every single week. Well, the team made a case for that last night, saying, hey, even Joe Burrow is going to have an off night. The offense is going to have an off night, and they did. But, you guys really need to be pleased about that defense. This is the point that I was trying to make last week. The reason I still had confidence in the Bengals' ability to be able to win a good chunk of football games moving forward, Daniel Jones was not very good. And if it did come down to a shootout, there was no way Joe Burrow or that Daniel Jones was going to be able to out Joe Burrow. And that's really what I saw last night. If the Bengals offense looked like it did the last couple weeks, what kind of blowout is that? That's like the what we saw the Cowboys lose yesterday. That's like what the ass whooping that the Lions put on the Cowboys yesterday. That's exactly what I would have expected from the Bengals over the Giants. The bottom line is, when you guys watch the defense play poorly, you're concerned about, man, they're never going to get this right. You watch the offense play poorly yesterday, it's an off day. That's not how that offense looks.
Right.
So knock it off, Casey. Knock it off, you big baby. What the hell's wrong with you? Casey, I'll start with you. Why are you so sad? Why are you mad? Why are you mad, bro?
I think, I don't know. I look at the whole season as a whole. I would have said week 1, defense played decently, enough to win a football game. They didn't. Offense let them down. Then the next 3 or 4 weeks, offense played great. Defense failed them. And now we get to this week, and yes, they won. Very happy for the win. Don't get that.
I'd hate
twisted.
to see if you weren't.
It just feels like this team. I'm coming to the realization that this team is just not a good team. It's not a great team.
Oh, so that's why I'm not as sad as you. I came to that realization like 3 weeks ago.
Well, yeah. I think I've just accepted it. Like, it was in my face, and I chose to ignore it and think that this team was not a top 10 team at least. No, this team is by far and away the most inconsistent team in all of football, and it's one of the worst. Just because of that fact, they just don't have any consistency. And thankfully, the defense finally showed up. I guess it just took being completely healthy, which how long is that going to last? I don't know. I just feel like that there's not a lot of good things that happened last night. There was just enough things to win a football game and to make you kind of realize that this team is just not going to be one of the best teams in the NFL this year. Now, I don't know if that means that they can't become that, or if they're playing at a wild card level. I don't know what that exactly means for me. But as of this moment, I'm going to take the words right out of Joe Burrow's mouth. Last night, they're not a championship team. Like he said last week, they're just not a championship football team right now. They're not a good football team. So I just don't know if I can really be happy about this win, because I need to see consistency. I need to see this offense play at the level I know it can throughout the whole season. Because if they can't play at that level, when will the defense play at that level either, right? Like, that's one game versus a team that was down their best 2 offensive players.
Yeah.
And they still, I know they only gave up 7 points, but they can't stop a nosebleed from happening when it's 3rd and short, or 4th and short for that matter. They could not stop that team when it mattered.
But they did on that 4th down.
Well, they did on 1 4th down, and then
the 4th down.
They gave up
3 for 5 is still pretty good on 4th down.
Yeah, like, that's unacceptable.
No, and by the way, yes, I get that. That's why I said, look, it reminded me a little bit of last year, kind of that bend don't break, and they broke a little during the game. But when the game mattered the most, I mean, would you rather have it reversed where they're really good on 4th down, but the 1 4th down that they needed to convert late to extend that drive, and then they convert that? Like, I don't know. I get it. I'm surprised.
I think the
just
defense
shocked.
I was very encouraged by the defense.
I thought the way that they put pressure on Daniel Jones up front. When you talk about getting healthy, I still think they're bad back in the secondary.
I
We get
100%
that.
agree.
Like, that's even health isn't going to fix
rotated
that.
a lot more guys yesterday,
Yep.
which is definitely encouraging.
Let me clarify. I don't think the defense played horribly. They only gave up 7 points. They were able to get turnovers when it mattered. They were able to get stops when it mattered. But I saw a trend of them not being able to stop 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, and that's been a consistent theme throughout the season. Look at the Washington game. Look at the Ravens game. When it was 4th and short, 3rd and short, they can't stop. They can't stop a team, and they're going to be playing teams that dominate those downs. With Nick Chubb coming back, with the Eagles being able to do the tush-push, like, those things, they end up catching up with you. You got to get off the field on those downs, and they can't. Luckily, they were able to get 2 stops, and they were able to get a turnover in the red zone.
Yep.
But how many times is that going to happen when you play the Eagles and they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley? You're not playing Daniel Jones and Slayton, who got hurt midway through the game, and I don't even know the Tyrone Tracy all season long. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I had my concerns with the team. Thought they played good enough to win, clearly, and I have hope for them to play good enough to win in the future. But I still see some glaring concerns moving forward.
Well, and again, I'm sorry. I want to send it to Jacob and Elliot real quick after this, real quick. But like all the issues you're bringing up defensively, I don't think we expected that to get fixed up. I mean, we saw improvement in the defense. You've said before we don't need this defense to be great. Elliot, you've said, I mean, it's never going to be great. It's not going to be a good defense all season.
No, don't need them to be great.
All those issues that you're talking about, you sound shocked that's the case. I guess the reason I looked at it differently is, well, yeah, they're going to make mistakes on defense. But when you only give up, 7 points or whatever it was, like, you could talk about, well, how many situations that defense is going to be in like that throughout the season. Well, how many times do you expect the offense to be as poor as what they were last night? I guess that's really what I expected. If anyone was going to be down today, it was going to be on offense. If the offense was just average last night, those issues that you talked about, I don't think we're talking about right now. I think that the defense has put the offense in bad positions all season. Last night was the opposite. I thought the offense put a lot of pressure on a defense that isn't very good to go out there and win you the football game. And to their credit, they did that.
And if the offense puts up a few more points, they probably don't go for 5 fourth downs, and you're punting on a 4th and 1 in a 3-score game, and then you don't have 3 for 5, and we're in a different situation. But I know it's the Giants, and I'm not going to sit here and act like there's some great football team. They're not. They scored 3 touchdowns against the Commanders. They put up 30 points last week in a win against the Seahawks. They scored 15 against the Cowboys and 21 against the Browns. This is an offense that has been able to move the ball with relative consistency for almost the entire year, and the Bengals defense held them to 7 points. I don't expect this Bengals defense to hold anyone to 7 points. I don't care if you're the Chiefs or the Giants. In 30-7 or 17-7, a win's a win, and at this point with this team sitting at 2-4, I'm certainly going to take that. I was incredibly encouraged by the defense. Kinner touched on it there in the open. If you would have asked me in the middle of the day yesterday before that game kicked off if the Bengals could win a football game where the offense scores 17 points, I would have very confidently said no. I would have thought if the offense scores 17 points in Sunday Night Football, we get ran out of MetLife Stadium.
Yep.
Luckily, the defense played well enough to hold the team to 7 points, and I'm not going to be mad about that because I think if we were a team like, say, the Browns or the Steelers that relied on their defense, then in a 17-7 win, I would sit here and nitpick, short yardage conversions or something like that. But I don't expect this defense to be as good as they were last night, quite honestly, ever again. I don't think we're going to play another team and hold them to 7 points. And, I know the Giants had 20 first downs, but you get a turnover in the red zone. You get a 4th down stuff at the end when it matters. You force a few punts. I think the defense played about as good as you can expect this defense to play, really, at any point this season last night. And if the offense would have just played fine, then we would have won that game. We still covered. We won by 10 points. That's a good win, and to win a game in a way that I didn't think was possible is honestly my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, listen. I'm not going to sit here and be too negative because it is a win, and I said last week that they literally had to win. If you do not win this game, the season is over. They won the game by 10 points, so that's the positive. I'll list some other positives for everybody. T. Higgins, he had 7 catches for 77 yards. I thought Jamar Chase, 5 catches for 72 yards. I thought he was pretty solid. Outside of those two, not a ton of work around the receiving room. Yoshivas had a big catch towards the end of the game, and outside of that, not really anything. But saying that, rushing-wise, the Bengals had the coolest touchdown maybe of the season.
Yeah,
I think that was the coolest. I really did think that was going to be the start of an ass whooping. I can say that on the radio, right?
Jeez, Elliot.
I think I can. I think he's being silly.
No,
but
yeah,
I think
it was. I agree. I thought it was about to be an ass whooping as you talked about.
I thought once that happened, and I couldn't tell if that was a plan. Maybe it was a planned run, but they certainly didn't think he was going to bust off for 50 yards or whatever that was. So that was good. That was a positive. The defense did completely shut down the Giants. They completely shut them down. Daniel Jones looked absolutely atrocious in large part because of what we did. 22 for 41, 205 yards, a pick, and they also forced a fumble. So, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. It's 17-7. It's a good win. It's a good win. I just think that eventually I'd like it to be a complete game, a full game. Both sides of the ball look good. That's what I want to see. But, again, you can't complain with wins. It was on the road. It was to a team with more wins than you. So it's a solid performance. It's not a good performance, not a great performance, but it was enough to get the job done. And that's what we talk about on the show. It's just get the job done. You're going to play a team again on Sunday. It's probably going to be an ugly game that I'm not going to have any complaints about if they win. Not one. Not going to have one complaint. The rushing I thought was okay up until the end. The Bengals, that is. I thought Zach Moss had a tough day, but Chase Brown was fine. I know most of his yards were on that one carry. But saying that, I thought they were serviceable. So, yeah, listen, get through this week. You got through it, and now we're moving on to Cleveland.
That's right.
We're just do the Bill Belichick. We're on to Cleveland. And that's okay.
All right, this is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. More reaction to the Bengals win over the Giants. They extend their season, it seems. Like, kind of. I think people are a little down right now. But, again, as down as some people are today, imagine the mood and the feeling had they lost last night's game. And at one point, it felt like it was trending towards a possibility of that. But we'll get to all of that. We'll get to more of that coming up. Still some games. Another game left tonight that's big out of the AFC. And, again, now that we're about, 6-7 weeks into the season, you do start to pay a little bit close attention to how things are shaking out around the conference, no doubt. So we'll be right back. More Off the Bench when we come back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. The Cincinnati Bengals come out with the win last night over the Giants, and although it wasn't pretty, you heard Joe Burrow in the postgame say it was ugly. It was really ugly, but whether you blew out the Giants or you were able to edge out a win against the Giants, the win still counts the same. And the Cincinnati Bengals, at least as we currently sit here right now, the 12th spot, I know the playoffs, it's very early in October to be talking about the playoffs, but the reason I'm bringing this up, 2-4, the AFC, as we talked about, is so jumbled and it's so average. And outside of the Chiefs, the Texans, and the Ravens, who have kind of separated themselves from the rest of the pack, and not really by a win total margin, it's just by how they look, right? I think the Chiefs, Texans, and Ravens look the most complete out of the AFC right now. And outside of that, that's 3 spots. The rest, and obviously the Bills and Jets tonight, a battle for that 4th spot. But 5, 6, and 7, it's all going to be fought for by the likes of the Steelers, and I think that they'll even out once we get to that back half of the schedule, although that was a solid win yesterday. The Raiders aren't good, but Steelers looked good in that. The Chargers, the Colts, Broncos, the Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, those are the teams that are going to be in the mix. I don't think the Browns are going to be in the mix. I don't think you guys think that either. I'm just saying, for me, I'm counting them out. Obviously, the Jags, whatever. The
I think
Patriots,
they could be in the mix.
Tennessee, what?
I think they could be in the mix.
I mean, they get a win this weekend. But
Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. If they make a certain move, I think they could be back in the mix.
Possibly.
Takes one Jameis.
Takes one Jameis
To get to the mountaintop. You said, listen, you guys said you were nervous at some point towards the end of that game when the Giants probably scored the touchdown. I actually wasn't really nervous. I was pretty confident the Bengals were going to win the game because it just felt like the offense was on cruise control and they were just kind of waiting to wake up. Like the play that Joe Burrow threw to Jamar Chase, he extended the play and just Jamar's down there somewhere and he tosses it up and he makes the catch. Or when Joe goes out, scrambles, throws it, finds Yoshi somewhere. Like I feel like they were just waiting to do that. They didn't need to do it, so they didn't. And I was pretty confident that the only time I got nervous is when Chase Brown fumbled the football that very slowly trickled out of bounds. Was it Zach Moss had the other fumble, right?
Correct. Both running backs had a fumble. Not great. No, never fumbled.
Who's that?
Our boy Joe Mix.
Joe Mix never did fumble. Joe Burrow also the leading rusher. That's something of note. So there it is. Listen,
He does it all.
He does it all. I'm fine. Kinner just ran down the AFC. I do think the Bengals are better than the Jets. I think they're better than the Dolphins. I think they're better than the Patriots. I think they're better than 3/4 of the AFC West. I think they're better than 2/4 of the AFC North at least. And I think they're better than 3/4 of the AFC South. That's a playoff team. You have to get wins. You have to go out and beat Cleveland on Sunday. But I do think talent-wise, they have enough. It was the first game yesterday that we've been completely healthy since what? The Patriots game, right?
That's right.
So
in which we didn't have T. Higgins.
So it's the first game we were healthy.
And Jamar was back. like with
Right.
with the very
Yeah, that
limited
morning.
time in
Yeah.
camp. So that's the most. I don't know how even to word that from yesterday, but just ready, if you will.
I think so.
You know, from that perspective. The other reason I brought up those teams, keep in mind, it's not that I brought up those teams just because I think the Bengals are better than those teams. We could all think those teams are, or that the Bengals are better than those teams. It's mainly because of the records. The Bengals sit here right now at 2-4, and I bring up the Raiders, I bring up the Dolphins, I bring up the Jets and the Broncos, even the Colts and the Chargers. Chargers are 3-2, Colts 3-3, Broncos 3-3, Jets 2-3. They have a chance to go 2-4 or 3-3 tonight. The Dolphins, yada yada. The point is, at 2-4 with the Bengals, all those teams, it's not just that we know that they're better than them, but like they're all within a game or tied right now with the same record. So everyone that was making such a big deal about the record, on a normal year, 1-4, you're done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On a normal year, 1-4, you're pretty much toast. I do think there's going to be a lot of average teams that fill out probably that 6-7 slot out of the AFC. And the Bengals may be a very good team with an average record that fills one of those slots when it's all said and done. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the Bengals record is come January, I think basically unanimously you're not going to want to play Joe Burrow in the playoffs if you had a pick of any of the wild card teams. So
especially for the Chiefs, you think they want to run into in the divisional round?
Right.
That sucks for them. You know, the Texans, you know, Texans Bengals or Chiefs Bengals, that's what I would have predicted as a potential AFC championship game, and that might
in the
be
first round.
what we get with the divisional round. You know?
Reed texted us last night, and I think it is relatively true. If the Bengals were to make the playoffs and as a wild card team, there's not one team that wants to play Joe Burrow and the Bengals. There's not one team that's looking at us and say, I want to play them instead of the other wild cards.
And I don't know how much of that is Bengals praise, to be honest. I think
the
looking at the AFC, the rest of the AFC wildcard teams are a joke, honestly. I mean, you're comparing the Bengals to a Chargers team with no weapons on the outside, probably in that mix. The Steelers, maybe even the Browns. Just teams that really don't provide a lot, and the Bengals having one side of the ball be elite, I think just sets them apart from the rest of the teams in that wild card mix once you remove the division champs.
And you know, there's a lot of ways to look at that too. You bring up a good point. How many of those teams want to run into the Bengals in the first round? No matter what in the playoffs, you're running into a good team. You're running into a team that has a side of the ball that got them there. And it's just a matter of, if you're the Chiefs, do you want to run into a team like Cleveland with a very, very good defense, or run into a Bengals team that you know Patrick Mahomes could throw all over? Technically, we don't know that. We saw it. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
He threw, you know, obviously the turnover issue or whatever. Bottom line is, a lot of football left to be played between now and then, and a lot can change. But that's why last night, regardless of how ugly it was, a solid win for the Bengals. And now they turn their attention towards Cleveland. And really, Joe Burrow brought this up last night too. Like, that was a good win, but that was an NFC team you beat. You needed that win no matter what. But like the losses against AFC teams have been a problem to start the season, and they have a chance to not only get an AFC win this weekend, but an AFC divisional win, already 0-1 in the division. We could talk about the Browns-Bengals game more throughout the week, but that's what also makes this next game so important for the Bengals, is they need to win in the division, because theoretically, if Cleveland, you allow them to get that win this weekend, you're allowing Cleveland to sneak back into that conversation, to be fighting for that final spot that Cincinnati is, and that's not what you guys anticipated coming into the season, was trying to hold off that defense. The offense is nothing that you're concerned about, but the offense for the Giants isn't anything to be concerned about. And it was a close one last night.
If you can beat the Browns, and I know we got to take it step by step, game by game, week by week. If you can beat the Browns on the road, which, by the way, our 2 wins are on the road, so that's a positive. Right? We're playing a team on the road. That's the only time we can win games.
That's right.
So we play the Browns on the road. You win that. Eagles, it's going to be a 50-50 game. I don't know. I'm not going to predict a Bengals win. I think the Eagles stink. I've seen enough of that Eagles team to realize that they don't got it. Whatever it is that we thought they had, they don't got it anymore.
You know who I think would be – you know which coach I think would kill it in Philadelphia?
Who's that?
I think Kevin Stefanski would win a Super Bowl with Philadelphia. I think Kevin Stefanski.
Kevin Stefanski would win a Super Bowl
with
quite
a few teams.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cleveland. Really doing a good job there. But yeah, I was watching the Eagles yesterday, obviously, and I'm like, they have every weapon. Like, they're built. And to be fair, Cleveland has tried to build like Philly does. I mean, they're very similar in how they build and how they approach building the roster. They spend money the same way, this, that, and the other. But yeah, I'm watching Stefanski's offense. Not the offense they're running now, because they sold their soul to the devil, obviously.
Right.
But Stefanski's offense with Jalen Hurts and Smith, or those guys, they'd kill it. They'd absolutely kill it. Sirianni's a whiny little fill in the blank. You saw what he was doing yesterday, right?
I saw the taunting.
What a weirdo.
He likes to taunt. He likes to taunt. He likes to get in the opponent's face.
I really liked him too. During the Super Bowl, there was that cool little emotional shot, like the national anthem's playing. It was a beautiful national anthem. The Super Bowl, he has that tear going down his cheek, and I was like, that was a cool moment, right? And since then, he's continued crying. He hasn't stopped crying since that damn Super Bowl. I tell you what, that's the last time I liked him.
I have that picture framed.
Sirianni crying.
Sirianni crying.
I'm a No Sean Moreno guy.
Oh, the No Sean Moreno's a good one.
More of a No Sean Moreno guy myself.
But yeah, listen, if you're able to...
He buzzed his hair, though. That's going to save their season.
That's right. If you're able to take care of business against the Browns, who, respectfully, Kinner, aren't a good football team, and then you're taking the Eagles... I'll be okay with a loss to the Eagles. I'm not going to freak out over a loss to the Eagles. I won't want it. I'm not saying I want it. I'm just saying it's...
No, I'm not going to freak out about a loss to the Eagles. That's where I think I disagree.
Well,
because I think I will.
Well, hear me out. If you're 3-5, we can recover from 3-5. I don't know about 2-5.
I said 5-5 after week 10. Don't care how you get there.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
Have to be.
And then you have the Raiders, right? So if you just win two games here out of your next 3, we're in a great position.
Then you have to beat the Ravens.
That's okay.
And I would rather be in a spot where you don't have to beat the Ravens.
But we'll deal with that when it comes. I just think you take care of the Browns, you take care of the Raiders, and then the Eagles game we treat it as if they have to beat somebody at home, right?
You would think at some point.
At some point, the Bengals have to win a game at home. And hopefully it's the game against the Eagles. But we got time. We got a little bit of time here. It's only, October 14th. The Bengals are going to be okay. The offense is going to find its way back next week against Cleveland, I hope and I pray. And then against the Eagles, it will be a shootout. I think Craig said it in the chat.
Oh, if that over-under is below 65?
Yeah, I think.
I'm probably still taking the over.
42-41 final score.
Yeah, 40's easy. We're talking Rams Chiefs type of fun. Is that a 1 o'clock game?
No, 4:25.
Oh, nice.
Eagles 4:25.
That'll be a fun one.
Next
Whiteout too, right?
Next week's 1
Is
o'clock.
that the Fox primetime game or primetime? Is that the Fox?
It says CBS.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I assume that'd be game of the week.
We'll step away for a few. When we come back, more from last night's game. Again, I know you kind of touched on some of the positives earlier, but I'm going to give Casey a chance to redeem himself. Right? What did Casey like from last night's game? Because Yoshi is someone I'm going to touch on when we come back because he's such an interesting character with this team. We don't call his name a lot throughout the game, but I feel like in some of the biggest games this season, he's come up the most clutch in some of these big moments. We're going to talk about Yoshi. We're going to talk about what we liked from last night's game and not the generic, I like that we won. Or if it's not just that you know what you liked from last night's game, but we were acting as if the offense, was that just a one-off? Was the struggle just a one-off? Is there anything about the offense that you are truly worried about? We'll discuss all of that when we come back. More Off the Bench next.
Who's going to sit out this?
Interesting. So, anyways, Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Was that like a breaking news thing, or what do we have? What's going on
Semi-breaking news, nugget of breaking news. Ian Rappaport reports that Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel confirms for the first time that QB Tua Tagovailoa is expected to play again in 2024. Tagovailoa already said that he wasn't planning on retiring, that he was going to come back to the Dolphins, but it was kind of widely expected, I guess, that he would at least sit out this season. But no, he's going to come back. He's eligible to return on October 23rd, so just a few weeks away. And yeah, it seems like he's going to come back this year.
I think that, and I think they were kind of alluding to it when the Dolphins were playing somebody in primetime. Who were they playing in primetime recently? Titans, I think it was. They were playing somebody in primetime.
It was like Thursday Night Football. It was horrendous. It was a bad matchup.
Yeah. And they were kind of alluding to the fact that Tua wanted to come back and all this. I don't understand how you let him play.
I like how you worded that. Of course he wants to come back. And I'm curious the power that teams have in letting you come back. I mean, because I see a lawsuit there. So I like how you worded that because that was going to be where I segued to that. How you let him come back. It's an interesting dilemma that I think is the next stage of how teams handle some of these head injuries.
I know they're paying him $50+ million, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's going to look terribly if he suffers one more head injury. It's terribly if he suffers another one. So I don't know about that one. I'm the Dolphins are truly atrocious without him. But boy, it seems like the risk isn't worth the reward there. I don't think anybody ever thinks that the Dolphins are good enough to win a Super Bowl, whether that's with Tua, without Tua. If that was a Super
they're
Bowl,
night and day with him versus without.
That's true, and they're a playoff team with Tua. They are one of the worst teams in the AFC without him.
So what I was about to say before I stopped myself was, is Tua Tagovailoa the biggest winner of his own concussion? But obviously that's not the case.
Maybe
is his
from a
career
perception,
the
yes,
biggest
that's
winner
fair, yeah.
of his concussion? Because I think the general narrative around Tua was that anyone can facilitate to these weapons with Devon Achane in the backfield, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, that anyone could run this offense. And we've seen now with multiple quarterbacks in, other than Tua, that just is not the case. So I think he, at least from a national perspective wise, has been a big winner of this whole thing.
I think so. I mean, it's clear that the Dolphins need him. If the Dolphins want to succeed, you have to go through Tua because nobody else is going to be able to do it unless you draft somebody or trade for a quarterback that can play the position. That's evident right now. So, yeah, I guess if you want to word it like that, I think that's kind of fair. It's Tua or it's nothing. And the Dolphins are well aware of that. Speaking of Tua a little bit, not really, I was a little concerned that Joe Burrow, when he was bashed to the ground last night, I thought that was going to be a problem.
By the way, I don't care what their doctor says. There's no way in hell he didn't. I don't care. You don't slam your head off the ground that hard. You don't do that, and everything's hunky-dory and everything's A-okay. I mean, good for the Bengals, good for him to go back out there. But we all know that, when Joe Burrow told the owner to kick rocks when the owner asked him to do something.
Yeah.
All right, you think that some dweeb in a blue medical tent said, "Oh, Joe B, your eyes are looking kind of off. You're not going back out there." No, Joey B does what he wants. The way his head cracked off that floor, there's no way in hell.
Yeah, it hit pretty
that there was
hard.
nothing there. That wasn't just like, like it kind of banged into someone's leg or something. I mean, bam, popped right off the floor. Unbelievable.
It slammed into the turf. It was pretty evident that something was wrong there. But he came out of the tent relatively quick, sat right back on the
played
bench.
very well too. I think it kind of he seemed locked in after that.
Snapped him back into place.
Kind of a weirdo. I mean, it took that to get him going. But
that was the only part of the game. The part of the game where I was scared. That was the only part of the game where I was like, "Oh, we can't have that. We can't have a 2-week absence of Joe Burrow. Can't happen." But
I mean, like, he hasn't had concussion issues before, right? Like even in college, right?
Well, he had the big one against UCF.
But that was like, it wasn't like a
nothing like
pattern,
reoccurring,
like what we've seen with Tua and that. But you asked earlier, it's a bad look if he gets another one.
Terrible.
Talking about Tua. Who's it a bad look for though?
Well,
I don't think the Dolphins are doing anything wrong. And I mean, should the teams look at these guys and say?
I think the only person it's a bad look for if Tua comes back and gets another concussion is the league.
That's just
like
Roger Goodell.
League offices, because it's not on Tua to retire. Yeah. You don't expect a player to hang him up when he doesn't technically have to. That's when we talk about players having to be protected from themselves on injuries all the time. And that's a huge example right here. I don't think you can blame the Dolphins, because if the doctors tell you he can play, then what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I think you have to blame the league for not stepping in, and then certainly investigate the doctors and the process in which he underwent to be cleared to come back, because we saw it already in Miami where he had a bad concussion, came back too soon, had another concussion, came back too soon, had another concussion, 3 in one season, and that kind of stuff adds up. And I don't know who to blame. I think it probably does fall on the league office, and then obviously making sure all the doctors followed the necessary precautions.
Is there like, do they put some kind of limit in there of, hey, once you eclipse 5 confirmed concussions,
High school does.
You're done?
Why doesn't the NFL?
Yeah, so that's so the league, not the Dolphins, because I see when you worded that earlier, I've seen people on social media bring up already like how, like, the Dolphins can't let him just go out there. And I'm like, but if they don't, he could turn and sue. So there's obviously some legal stuff that's involved too. They can't prevent him from going out there technically, but to the NFL, as far as how they want to work that, not in the middle of the season though, but moving forward, that is wild, because you've seen when he goes through that, there's a lot of stuff going on with him, with that arm, with the hand movement and everything. It's not a good look for the NFL. You're right.
I don't think there's like a set number though that would even fix it. Like, you can't do it after 5, can't do it after 6, can't play after 6.
High school's 3, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I feel like we're past the point of no return, and we're just hitting a guy that's.
How much you can't come back once you do this twice?
Yeah, I'm not a medical doctor, if you couldn't tell with my sweatpants and hoodie.
But you play one on TV.
But at the end of the day, I feel like you have to count in for what's going to happen to Tua in 25 years from now.
Yeah.
At some point, that has to be an area of concern because CTE is a very real thing. And if you're going to let guys keep playing on this, like this is the worst it's been in a long time, a noticeably bad situation where a quarterback has been, and his concussions are worse than any concussions I've seen. I mean, every single one of them is bad. And I don't know, man. At some point, the league's got to step in and just say, stop, please.
What's coming up for the Dolphins again? A bye week this week, but they're at the Colts this Sunday, and then they have the Cardinals at home, and then they're at Buffalo on November 3rd. That's the upcoming 3 games for the Dolphins. Cincinnati, the Bengals. We opened up the show. No surprise there with reaction to the 17-7 win that the Bengals had over the Giants. On Sunday Night Football. Offensively wasn't the best night. Joe Burrow, 19-28, 208 yards, no touchdowns other than the touchdown he had on the ground. 55 yards total rushing on the ground, including the 47-yard touchdown run that he had. Chase Brown, 10 carries, 53 yards. Zach Moss, 6 carries for 13 yards. You total that up, you get 121. So 121 yards on the ground, 183 through the air, 208 total through the air. I'm sorry, but wasn't the sexiest offensive night. Was that just a one-off? Again, when you look at some of the teams that they faced over the last couple of weeks, Ravens are not a good defensive unit. I know that everyone likes to paint them to be this great defensive unit because it's Baltimore and that's their reputation, but they're slowly dissipating as far as how dominant they are on one side of the ball as well, on that side of the ball as well. Obviously, Washington's not very good defensively. I mean, Cincinnati, we know how explosive they are with Joe T and Jamar, no doubt. But they've been overly explosive the last couple of weeks to where we thought that that's who they are capable of being every single week. But they ran into a little bit of a defense that gave them a little resistance, that gave them a little bit of pushback. And we were curious what was going to happen if any team had to consistently force Joe Burrow and the Bengals to punt on a consistent basis. Would that defense be able to hold off the opposing offense to put the Bengals in position to win? We got that answer last night. The defense played just good enough to get them a win, holding the Giants to only 7 points. But that Giants defense is good. Jake, yeah, you guys were talking about it. You said even before you knew of the struggles of the team that this was one of those type of games you circled as being concerned about because of the guys on that defensive side of the ball. Any concerns about the offense coming out of last night? Was last night just a one-off, hey, you're not going to have it every single week, or are there concerns about teams who do have good defenses that can slow down this Bengals offensive attack?
I'm always going to be scared about the Bengals defense playing against Bengals offense playing against an elite pass rush. It's been an issue that we've faced basically the entirety of Joe Burrow's tenure and really the entire history of this franchise. The O-line can look great, and then you go up against a Myles Garrett or a TJ Watt, and they just eat your lunch for 60 minutes. So we saw that last night with Dexter Lawrence certainly having a night, but more importantly, Brian Burns on the outside dominating the tight end a few times, which was certainly an interesting schematic decision on Zach Taylor's part, but nonetheless, certainly not great to see a position that had been a massive strength for the Bengals through the first 5 weeks of the season really take a big step back last night in the offensive line. And that scares us as the Browns are right around the corner. I mean, you go to Cleveland next week, and we all know that the quarterback play is topic number one when talking about the Browns, but they still have Myles Garrett, who's a pretty dang good pass rusher, and that'll obviously always scare me until this offensive line can prove that they can shut down the elite of the league, because you can do it against everyone else, and that's fine, and that's great, and that'll help you win a lot of games, and that's not something that I want to brush over. But when you play the guys like the Dexter Lawrences, like the Myles Garretts, and I guess off of last night, like the Brian Burnses of the world, you have to be able to take another step up and be another level of an elite level player. And I thought we had that in Orlando Brown, and he had a good game, a fine game yesterday, but not what we had come to expect from the first 5 weeks. He had been having the best season of his career. And it certainly wasn't a great game last night. Amarius Mims got beat by Azeez Ojulari a couple times. Not wonderful to see from the rookie, but a young guy who hasn't made many starts. He is going to he's going to get better. He's going to continue to grow. But yeah, no, I certainly wish that the offense would have looked better last night. If we would have been able to put up even 3 touchdowns, 21-7 game, I think you're feeling a lot different this morning. But I'm not going to spend one single minute sitting here worried about Joe Burrow in the offense. I'm going to try to take the positives from the defense, and because that's something that I didn't think I was going to see, and then just hope that the offense bounces back next week. Because at the end of the day, if we're worried about the offense not bouncing back, what is this team? So I'm much more confident that the offense will bounce back than the defense can replicate that performance, which is honestly a funny place to be after a 17-7 win.
Listen. I'm not going to be concerned about the offense until somebody gets injured, and I'm not going to even wish that into existence. So it's a one-off game on the road, Sunday Night Football in prime time against the Giants. By the way, were there no fans there? Or was it? It seemed every pick packed. Was
Tom
it packed?
Coughlin bobblehead night, of course.
Was it
there
packed?
Was, it lined up out there.
I kept hearing the T chants.
It says 79,000.
Was
there
it really?
There was a good. You could hear
was a good
Bengals.
amount
There
of
was a
Bengals.
good
There was a lot
chunk
of
of
Bengals
Bengals.
fans.
fans.
It was
Okay,
bad.
all right. I didn't know what the state of the
My
I like every time T would make a catch, I just heard the
Yeah.
T. And
My college roommate's from New York. He didn't go to the game, but he was out there tailgating. He called me right before the game started. He said there is a lot of Bengals fans.
Really?
He said the parking lots and everything were like overrun by Bengals fans. So kudos to Bengals fans for getting out there. That's awesome. We travel.
That's right, baby. Yeah, the offense is going to be fine though. Joe Burrow is going to be fine. The offensive unit's going to be fine. Are you guys at least a little concerned? Not concerned. I'm not going to say concerned. Shocked. Are you shocked that Mike Gesicki's not really a part of the offense? Because I think that's kind of what we all thought heading into this season. And Eric All has taken that step, and he is certainly tight end one.
It's definitely surprising.
Because I just feel like he's not even a part of the offense at all.
I think it's less surprising that he's not part of the offense. It's more surprising that he's not part of the offense and no wide receiver 3 has emerged.
Yeah.
I thought if he wasn't going to be a part of the offense, which was definitely always a possibility, but I thought that was going to be because either a Burton or a Yoshivas or a Charlie Jones took a massive step and was a clear wide receiver 3, and for that not to happen, and Gesicki not to really be used in the receiving game, definitely a little bit interesting after using him so much in the first few weeks.
Yeah, 2 catches against the Ravens, 1 catch against the Panthers, 0 catches last night.
And like, especially with all the, I mean, I remember when we had Jay on, and any time we would talk with anyone that was covering Bengals camp, the big takeaway from Bengals camp was how Gesicki was just the connection between him and Burrow was off the charts, right? Like, that's all we kept hearing about, how that was one of the new big wrinkles added to the offense, and that the connection between those two was so big. And then you get Jamar Chase back, and you have T. Higgins out there. Now you have Gesicki, but Gesicki is not, really being utilized hardly at all. And then on top of that, I could see if they were getting a lot of production from receivers outside of Jamar and T. But outside of Jamar and T, you're getting no production from anybody else. You would think that would be a prime opportunity for Gesicki to kind of slip in there and take advantage of some of that production. That just hasn't been the case. Let's pick up with that when we come back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. I also want to get your guys' take on, we talked about that no one's emerged as that number 3 option in the passing game for Joe Burrow. Jermaine Burton was kind of expected to be that, and he was scratched from yesterday's game. Not injured, a healthy scratch. I'm curious your guys' takeaway on that. We'll get to that when we come back. More Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, next. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissot with you here. We were talking about kind of surprised, or you said shocked a little bit about the lack of production from Gesicki. Not just production, but the way that they utilize him as well. Is that more, Jacob, to you, is that more of a, all has kind of surpassed him on the depth chart, or is it more of the fact that Gesicki's just not performing at the level that was anticipated coming into the season?
All definitely has passed him on the depth chart, but last night we saw Drew Sample get more snaps than Gesicki as well. So he's really plummeting down the depth chart, a guy who was on full display last night that he truly can't block and is just a receiving threat. So really has a niche role in this Bengals offense, and I just don't think he's doing it well enough at this point to warrant a bunch of snaps. I think if you're going to have a tight end in there blocking, you want Drew Sample. If you're going to have a tight end in there blocking and receiving, you want Eric All. And if you're going to have a guy just receiving, you'd rather have, I guess at this point, Trenton Irwin as well, but you'd rather have Andre Yoshivas in the game with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So I think Gesicki and his limited skill set has just forced him way down the depth chart, and that's a brutal reality.
Again, it's one of those things where Nobody expected Eric All to be as big of an impact as he has been this season. And now it's just evident that he's better. He's a better option. Joe Burrow likes throwing to Eric All. They're not big plays. They're not massive go downfield like Travis Kelce. They're short, and whenever he needs it, he needs an outlet. Eric All is somewhere open, somewhat near Joe Burrow. And that's, again, kind of what it was last night. I think he had back-to-back catches in that third quarter. But it is a little bit of a shock to me because I thought Gesicki would be an end zone or a red zone threat, and it just hasn't been that. He had a great game against the Chiefs. He had a great game against he had a solid game against the Commanders. And outside of those two games, he's just been a non-factor. His block as good as our other tight ends. Shout out to Drew Sample, the greatest draft pick of all time. And then you have a guy who's just been better than him. So there's no spot for him really right now. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll find a role with this offense at some point. But I'd rather just have Eric All catch my passes.
I still feel like the role we wanted Gesicki to fill is not being filled.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say T. Higgins has been the third down red zone threat with sure hands, which great, we know he is. But like the position we thought Gesicki wasn't playing, it's not like someone else is playing it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where the confusion comes from for me.
Yeah, I also would like to say that last night was probably a tough game for Gesicki to really shine in, to be honest, because, I mean, when you're so limited in what you can do, if the defense knows that you can only catch a pass, then you're basically showing your hand on what he's supposed to do. And when he wasn't asked to run a route, he just wasn't able to get to Burns, and it completely blew up a drive. So I understand the want for him to fill in that receiver 3 type role. He's being paid $2 million at the end of the day. Like, I think they would rather have Yoshi get more of those opportunities and develop into that role, which I think he's done a admirable job. He was targeted 3 times, 2 catches for 36 yards, one of them that big play. And he just keeps coming up with big plays. I don't know if anyone's kind of noticed that as of late. The Ravens game, he had a really big play. This game, he had a game-sealing play. He's not getting a lot of volume, right? But there was only, out of the 28 passes, only 23 of them were targeted to receive, or 23 of them were actually targeted to a receiver. So that just means that there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for Joe to get through progressions, which Gesicki's never going to be the first option, and he's not getting enough playing time. So I think the biggest concern, and Kenner teased it earlier, was
Jermaine
Burton being a healthy scratch and then elevating Trenton Irwin. That, to me, was a big red flag for the future of what that position looks like. Maybe it doesn't matter because Yoshi will end up developing into that role, but not good for the future of that receiver at the moment.
I don't know why Jermaine Burton doesn't have a role. I don't fully understand what's going on. Maybe it has something to do with, he's not paying attention during, meetings, not meeting with coaches, not learning the playbook. I don't know what it is.
Wasn't that late? Who's the broadcaster that let that slip during a preseason game? And everyone's, who was that?
It was Kirk, I think, right? Wasn't it Herb Street?
It was
Herb Street. Was that a preseason game or was it a?
It was a regular season.
It was a regular season game. But either way, when he said that, I know people jumped on Kirk Herbstreit for saying that. Oh, where does he even get off saying that? I think something was slipped to him. I think he got that. I don't think he meant to say it or probably regrets saying it live on air, but I think he got that information from somewhere. The bottom line is there was red flags of him when the Bengals drafted him. I think we were willing to overlook it. And I don't know if it's a question of skill. I don't know if it's a character thing off the field like you talked about or what, but there just seems to be, that's one of the bigger question marks that there really doesn't seem to be anyone with answers as far as what is going on there. He's either really good and his attitude's why he's not getting opportunities, or he's just not as good a receiver as what everyone had anticipated when they drafted him, a guy that many people thought could have been drafted significantly higher had he not had some of the red flags in college, playing for guys like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, which many people said that was the red flag right there. You couldn't make it work with Kirby Smart. You couldn't make it work with Nick Saban. What makes you think you're going to follow any instruction at the NFL level? I don't know what is going on there, but it does seem kind of odd to me that he's not getting an opportunity when there's opportunities to be taken advantage of, and he's just not getting them.
I think there's somewhere on the field where he can be utilized. I'm not saying he has to get 7 targets a game, but every once in a while when you need a go route, when you need a deep ball, I think that you could have a worse option out there than a guy that can run really, really fast and go in a straight line downfield. I don't think that's a terrible thing every once in a while. I'm not asking him to be T. Higgins or Jamar. I'm just asking him to be on the field.
Trenton Irwin sucks.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Trenton Irwin's not very good.
Trenton Irwin goes out there and plays
Respectful.
wide receiver like a baked potato. He doesn't do anything. He just stands there.
Yeah.
He doesn't get away from the corner. He doesn't get away from the safety. He just stands there.
I-
Every time Joe Burrow throws the ball into the ground at the line of scrimmage, it's at Trenton Irwin's feet.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing anything to get open. Jermaine Burton can do something.
You'd like to think so. Or at least, and again, we were talking about it in the chat. Why not punt return, kick return? Try something different there. Please, for the love of God. I can only watch that for so long this season. But I do think there's a role on this team for Jermaine Burton. I just don't know why they're not even trying.
Don't take this like I'm challenging you, but based on what do you say you feel like there could be a role for him? Could it just be that he's not good?
It could be that. It certainly could be, but I don't think it's skill. I think you said that. I don't think it's a skill issue.
Okay.
I really don't. Because I think, as Jacob just said so eloquently, I don't think Trenton Irwin is a good enough wide receiver in the National
Baked
Football
potato,
League.
to be exact.
Baked
that was
potatoes
his exact
is the exact
I
word.
love baked potatoes, by the way. But
I do too.
What was it, the game against the Chiefs? He had the 43-yard catch. Is that right?
Yeah.
There's a role for him on this team. I just don't know who he upset, what's going on, to where he doesn't play football. Because a healthy and active for Trenton Irwin doesn't make any sense at all. If he's active and he doesn't play, fine, we can find other options. Because to credit Yoshi, Andre Yoshivas has been far better than I thought he would be. I think Casey's kind of alluded to it. He's made some big plays this season.
Yeah.
When you've needed a guy to come through outside of the ball that hit his face against Kansas City, he has been very, very good this season.
But he was good in the red zone against Kansas City. He's been good in the red zone on quite a few occasions, and he was that play last night. Now I know we don't call his name a lot, but yeah, like Yoshi's kind of one of those. And again, the way they took a chance on him and developed him.
Yeah.
We keep talking about the future of the development of him. We're hoping that he develops into what you guys aspire him to be. But at the same time, for an offense that we thought had a lot of answers, there's still a lot of question marks. There's a lot of question marks at tight end. There's a lot of question marks. Right now, it doesn't seem like it because Jamar and T are so good. We don't know who option number 2 is going to be next year. Has the fact. I mean, you watched last night's game when the defense takes away some things. It's Jamar Chase, it's T Higgins, and then who? That's the concern. We talk about the development of Yoshi in the future, but okay, let's say you get Yoshi to fill some of the production to T. You still have the lack of production behind him. We were hoping that Burton was going to be that guy. Not saying that he still can't, but it seems to be, as you guys talked about, maybe not a skilled thing, but more of something that we are not privy to. That it's either something at practice or just whatever. But
if he doesn't see playing time, he's certainly not the guy. If he doesn't even get any reps whatsoever this season, he will not be the Bengals number 2. That'll be somebody else. Mm-hmm. That'll be a different role. Because there's no reason he doesn't play on this team. There's no reason he doesn't see the field. A healthy and active against the Giants? Nah. Something's not clicking. And maybe it's because of what we all know. Maybe it's because professionally he's not what the Bengals want.
On Chatterbox Bengals, again, I'm sure everyone has all these different opinions on. So what's the majority of the chat? What do you and Craig talk about, or what's your guys' takeaway when it does come to that usage or lack thereof, or not even using at all, I should say, of Burton?
I think it's definitely upsetting. I mean, there's no way around it. Bengals fans are really optimistic about this guy we got in the 3rd round, but I do think that, and it's by our own doing, by Bengals fans' own doing, but I do think that we have talked Jermaine Burton into a point where these expectations are way higher than they should be. This is a 3rd-round pick, and we focus on the talent. And when a first-round pick falls, first-round pick talent, or that's at least what we've been saying all summer, falls to the 80s, maybe he's not going to play right away. Maybe he's not going to play year 1. So I think Bengals fans got a little ahead of themselves when it came to.
But we thought it was because of attitude, not skill.
Right,
I
think
thought
that's still the
skill-wise he was a first-rounder. Would you expect more from him if there wasn't the red flags? Because I feel like I guess I don't know. I interrupted you. My bad.
Well, no, I think those red flags are probably the same reason he fell from the 1st round to the 3rd round is the same reason he's inactive on game day now. I think that all is just. I think it's just a real issue, and I think that's why they were able to get his talent. And will he ever figure it out? I don't know, but the potential of him figuring it out in this offense is a lot more exciting than any other wide receiver we could have drafted at pick 80.
Yep.
And I think that's the way to look at this. And we talked about it last week when it comes to grading moves before or after. If Jermaine Burton never plays a game for the Bengals, am I going to be mad about the draft pick? Yeah, it's not going to look great. Is it still a pretty good idea to take a flyer on a guy that won a national championship, played at Georgia and Alabama, was leading receiver on 3 of the 5 best teams in the country across a couple years? I think it's a pretty good pick.
That goes back to what we talked
pretty
about
good
last
way
week.
to operate.
The intent of a decision versus the result of a decision. How do you judge what a good pick, what a good trade, what a good signing is? That's a good point.
Have to hope he works out. Have to hope it happens eventually. And maybe it is just a slow start to an NFL career. That's going to be a long one. But if Trenton Irwin continues to show that he's better than Jermaine Burton, at least during the week of practice, that is a bad place to be.
So the Bengals win. Zach Taylor knows how to coach again, and Anarumo is a great defensive coordinator again. Is that how this works?
That's right. We're back, baby.
Coach of the year.
Woo!
Coach of the year.
Woo!
There you go. Never a doubt. Never a doubt.
I just want to come in here and have some passion about a win. That's what I want. Listen, the win last night was great. They won. But it also wasn't great, and I want them to see more. I just want to see more. I want to come in here with excitement. And that win didn't really get me. That win didn't really get me excited. It was like, all right, you held serve. That was like a hold serve type
of the
of
lack
win.
of production offensively. If they
win,
42
the defensive side was fine, but I don't think anybody in here is expecting the defense to be the reason the Bengals win games in the future. So it was a one-off night. You won the game. You won it ugly. You did your job. We move on to Cleveland. But I want maybe this Sunday. Maybe this is the week. I want Cleveland respectfully to not score a single point. I want it to be 25-0. I want to kick their teeth in, metaphorically. That's what I want to do, and I want to come in here 3-4 or what are we? Yeah, 3-4, and excited about the possibility of being maybe 5-4. Maybe beat the Eagles, maybe beat the Raiders. I want that chance. That's what I want. But you held serve last night, so we can't be upset about it.
I think if we can get, I don't want to say one. I'll say if we can get 2 more defensive wins this year, we're in a good spot.
Yeah,
I trust the offense to be consistently at what we saw the last few weeks as opposed to what we saw last night. And all in all honesty, I think the defense is going to be much closer to what we saw the last few weeks than what we saw last night. But if we can get this defense 2 more times, maybe 3 more times, when the offense decides that they're not going to put up 30, because you can't expect that for 18 weeks, then I think the Bengals are going to be just fine. You're still in the mix here at 2-4, and that's a result of how bad the AFC has been. This is a broken record talking about the Reds in the National League. How they're still alive because of how bad the conference is around them. And here we are with the Bengals doing the same thing again. But I think the difference here is we have a much more talented roster.
Way more.
Yeah, I think this is the optimism level here at 2-4 is higher than it would have been if the Bengals would have won last night in a 38-34 standard Bengals blowout or shootout game. Seeing the defense be able to hold a team 2-7, I know it's the Giants, but I honestly don't care. That means something in the NFL, and it was great to see for a defense that I didn't think had it in.
Yeah, it's like in baseball when you have a team that struggles to score runs and you get great pitching. And everything's never working at the same time. And last night the defense works, but the offense doesn't work. And the next week the offense will work and the defense falls apart. You never know. Kind of what to expect with this. I think the other thing too is last night, like just more question marks come out. Okay, is the defense? We know it's bad, but is it as bad as we thought? The offense, it's good, but is it as good as we thought? Now there's more question marks that came out of last night's game, but ultimately the most important thing, a W, came out of it, and that's all you can ask for in those particular situations. AFC North scoreboard coming up around the corner. How'd the Ravens fare? How'd the Browns fare? We already know that. How'd the Steelers fare? It was an interesting weekend for the AFC North. We'll get to all of that when we come back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
All right, it's ad time. Time to pay the bills. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Nice catch.
Thank you.
Pawnee Water.
Woo.
Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. You hear that? Nice smooth water. No rocks in this water.
No rocks, none.
Just water. And it's made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. Love Pawnee Water. Love Pawnee Water. The Bengals report. proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies at Encore. They deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, they help businesses enhance efficiency and
Productivity.
Productivity.
Why?
Why?
That's right. That's right, Jimbos. Visit encore.tech where your path to innovation begins.
Where?
Right here.
Oh,
Right here.
it's funny you should mention that. So I'll do a little ad read.
Okay.
The Champions Grill experience comes back this Thursday. This Thursday, we'll be back at Champions for Chatterbox Bengals, Chatterbox Live. You'll see us there. The three amigos. Maybe Reed. I don't know if Reed will be available. No, I don't know if Reed, but I can't promise Reed. If Reed's available, he will be there. If he's not available, because he'd be working. So, but nonetheless, come to Champions on Thursday. And I just got a big announcement. The new 2-4 Bengals, you will have a chance to maybe see them at 4-4 because we are giving away Bengals tickets again. 2 tickets to the Eagles game this Thursday, thanks to Heidelberg, Cincinnati, and Bud Light. So Thursday, Champions. The show starts at 7. We are giving away Eagles tickets. So be there, be square, and have some fun with us.
There we
thank
go.
Mike Ackley has not missed a show yet. He gets bonus points. Fetters and Sirboy, they've been to 1. Nate Seltzer's been to 2. Molly has been to 1. Anybody else from the chat that's been there that I'm missing, that I'm skipping out on?
For sure. That's why I don't do this.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done it. Thank you all, though, for coming. Hopefully you guys show up on Thursday. Big show. Giving away Eagles tickets. See you guys there.
Big league.
Champions Grill with an E. Work Road.
And absolute banger of a Thursday night game this week.
Who is it?
Denver versus the New Orleans Saints.
Jesus.
Well, you say that's a
Stinker.
You say that, but they're both 3-3, right?
Let's see if I
Yeah,
can.
and both those teams are
They're wild card frisky.
Elliot knows what I want to call those
Say
two
it.
teams. I
Say
can't
it.
say it on radio.
I know.
I can't say it on YouTube. We're not even on radio.
Say it.
I want to say it so bad.
Dude, what did you just say now? You just say, never mind.
Cincy B, did you say you
I
need to
hate
get
them both,
Cincy B,
both
get there
those
at
teams.
6:30, brother. Don't get there at 5. What are you getting there at 5 for?
brother, we don't get there at 5.
What are you talking about? Yeah, so if you're going to Champions Thursday, like 6:30 is a good time.
That's right.
It does usually get crowded around 6:45 for the record. So if you want to see,
He says he likes to drink, and I can't blame him. We'll be
okay,
there setting
well then
up.
get there.
Come have a good
Well then
time.
get there at 5. I don't
Come
care.
throw 'em back.
Yeah, get there at 5. Mike Ackley's got the front seat reserved.
They got good deals.
So go ahead and join us.
And
Like the streams.
like the streams.
That's right.
So we can get more viewers like you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chatterbox Bengals post-game podcast out now, available everywhere. So go check that out.
Yeah. And then Tuesday, he'll have another episode.
That is correct.
And Thursday,
We'll be at.
And Thursday we'll be at
Champions.
Champions
Grill.
Champions Grill on Work Road.
That's right.
That's right.
Both with ease.
And we're giving out Eagles tickets,
That's right.
courtesy of Bud Light.
We'll just do it again. I like doing it 3 times.
Time is a flat circle.
And here's the thing. I'm going to keep saying it so we get more people to come up.
That's
on
right.
Thursdays.
When is your next champion show?
Well, it's funny you ask. Kenner.
It's Thursday.
It's this
It's a
Thursday.
good question.
All right. Thanks for the information.
You're welcome. Did you go to Hollywood? I saw you guys were going to Hollywood. Is that where you went?
On Saturday, yeah, we were at Hollywood Gaming.
How was that?
It was good. We were out there for the pregame leading up to it, and then we had another show at another sports bar right after that. So it was a busy Saturday. And then I pissed off all the Buckeye fans after. They're fun.
Are you guys sad about that?
We're going to have to talk about it here, right?
Nothing's.
really.
They're not out anything, but
Yeah.
Ryan Day, that growing list of losses just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I'm not saying he's a
Yeah.
bad coach, but it's not doing him any favors.
No, I was legitimately upset about that loss for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it I'm fine.
It's just in the playoff era that loss doesn't matter. That's
Which is what sucks.
yeah, but it's going to make it better for the 12-team playoff.
Can I say something that's super egregious?
Good point,
That's
Jake.
sports related.
Yeah, go say something super egregious.
Penn State does not. Well, it's not egregious. Penn State does not deserve to be in the top 3.
Penn State
I
is
don't understand.
terrible.
I don't get
Penn
it.
State stinks.
But don't worry, when Ohio State beats them in a few weeks, all the Buckeye fans that are mad at me will see Ryan Day
Yeah.
can win big games. If you don't blow the doors off Penn State in a few weeks, you're not a good team to begin with.
I really hope that game's close.
You hope it's close?
Yeah, Ryan Day needs to go. we can't blow them out and then win a national championship.
You guys will.
Mike Vrabel was in town
watching
watching Ohio State
volleyball.
women's volleyball yesterday. What's he doing in town? What's Braves doing in Columbus? Oh, Jakey's getting excited.
Your fandom, though, if you had to pick Vrabel to be your head coach in Cincinnati for the Bengals or the Buckeyes, who are you rolling with?
You don't want to hear me answer.
I do,
Clearly
actually.
Buckeyes, right?
No, I mean, it's not even close. Yeah, give Vrabel to Columbus.
I mean, Zach Taylor proved last night he's a top 2 coach in football.
I'm
You gotta win.
not a fire Zach Taylor guy, but yeah, no, it's definitely Vrabel to Columbus. I would kill for Vrabel to coach this Ohio State team. I don't know how
At
you
least
didn't go get him this offseason.
Ryan Day, hey, you already brought a potential replacement in Chip Kelly to be your OC. You might as well do another potential replacement and have him be your DC at this point, just to get it started.
Yeah, because
You
everyone
know,
talks
little-
about Ryan Day's 1-7 record against top 5 opponents. Jim Knowles over 1,000 yards allowed.
That's what you expected.
He's been terrible.
You went out and got a Big 12 defensive coordinator and wonder why teams can throw and run all over your ass. I mean, I don't understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
But no, we'll save that for radio.
We'll save it.
Here in a bit. AFC North scoreboard when we come back. But yeah, I have some things to say about that.
Oh yeah, we can do it tomorrow.
All right, we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wingham and Dayton. Happy Monday, everybody. So Chatterbox Bengals last night, you and Craig, and Craig's been doing the Chatterbox Red stuff for a while too, so he's used to staying up late. But you got a firsthand taste of what it's like to be Nick Kirby and Trace Fowler with the late night Chatterbox show last night.
No, it was a late one. I think we wrapped up right around midnight. Got the podcast up around 1. It was eventful. It's easier to do those after a win. The last primetime game was the Commanders' loss, where they just ripped my heart out, and doing all that at midnight after a loss is much more difficult. So it was very, very nice to get the win last night. My first win on stream.
There you go.
I was worried I was going to get pulled. Reed was going to have to take over full time because he got that Panthers win, but alas, I figured it out and we're good to go. So yeah, no, it was nice to get back on track, and it's always a good time. Thanks to everyone who joined us in the stream. It's always a good time.
Yeah.
Well, the Bengals, they wrapped up the Sunday slate of football yesterday. A lot of good NFL games yesterday, but we'll focus on the AFC North at this point because that's really what this all is going to come down to. Look, with that being said, look, the Ravens, we'll start with the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 4-2. Bengals are 2-4. They have a loss against Baltimore. They'll have a chance against Baltimore coming up here in a few weeks. I thought the Vegas line on the Commanders-Ravens game was kind of wild. Because when we'll talk about the Browns-Eagles in a moment, that was like a 9.5. I think that moved to 8.5 by the time kickoff actually occurred between the Eagles and Browns. And I even thought that was a wide line. I thought that was a big line, to be honest, with that. And then the other line that caught my attention was this one. Baltimore, a 7-point favorite, but of course Vegas knows what the hell they're doing because it was a 7-point win for Baltimore. So good for Baltimore as far as that's concerned. 30-23 the final. Everyone was super excited to see Lamar Jackson going up against Jaden Daniels because that's what happens. You have the most successful African-American quarterback in the NFL. You get another successful African-American quarterback that comes in, and for whatever reason, we always got to compare them to the, instead of just saying it's two really good quarterbacks, that's what you do in this particular matchup. So it was Jaden Daniels, who was Lamar 2.0, going up against Lamar. Right? Like that's what the big build-up to this game was. The bottom line is Lamar is really, really good, and so is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels pretty damn good. And we saw that yesterday. Jaden Daniels completing 24 of his 35 pass attempts, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 20 of 26, 323, a touchdown and a pick. He threw an interception. What a bum. Not very good. But no, that game lived up to the hype. High scoring. Defenses for both those teams, not as good as whatever, especially the Ravens. We can get to this in a moment with Baltimore. I'm tired of hearing about this Baltimore defense. The Baltimore defense is not as good as everyone makes it out to be. I'm tired of that reputation, continuing to give that defense the benefit of the doubt. But overall takeaways, Baltimore comes out on top. They improved to 4-2. They get the big win over Washington at home.
They did dominate the game. They did, pretty much from start to finish, right around the second quarter, it was all Baltimore's game. They look good, man. I know their defense, their secondary specifically, probably isn't the best in the world. It seemed like whenever Jaden Daniels needed to throw downfield, somebody was always open. But their offense is good. If Derrick Henry is going to be this good, I didn't think Derrick Henry was going to be this good, so hand up. I thought he was going to be okay, but I thought he was going to be a lesser version of what he was in Tennessee. That's not the case. He is a focal point of that offense, and he has been phenomenal. I think Rashad Bateman is an underrated wide receiver, and I think Zay Flowers is maybe maybe the second best wide receiver in the AFC North. I heard that too. I don't know what that
Glass
was.
just shattered.
I heard a glass shatter as well. But saying that, good for the Ravens. Good for the Ravens. They beat a really hot, maybe the hottest team in the NFL in the Commanders, and it wasn't particularly. I know it was 7-point final, but again, it was domination there. How many 132 more yards for Derrick Henry. So 20 for 26, a touchdown, a pick. I don't know. I think the Ravens are one of the best teams in the AFC, I guess, as of this moment. After that win, I was hoping maybe for a loss there to help the Bengals out. At some point, you just got to give them their flowers and say, okay, maybe they're not the worst.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Lamar Jackson yesterday, 20 of 26 for 323 yards. Maybe his best passing game of the season. He looked great yesterday. If he's going to continue to take these steps as a passer, and Zay Flowers is going to be a legitimate wide receiver one, and Mark Andrews decided to play football at some
good
point
for Mark
this year.
Andrews.
That's good for all of us Mark Andrews fantasy owners. But, man, yeah, this Ravens team's scary. Because that defensive front is really good. And the secondary certainly hasn't been great so far, but they have some young players that can make strides. And we know Marlon Humphrey has the ability to be an all-pro level player. Kyle Hamilton's great. So they have the pieces on that defensive side of the ball to figure it out and get back to the level they were at last year. And if Lamar Jackson's going to throw like this and Derrick Henry's going to run like this, the Ravens are a really, really scary team, especially, like we've said time and time again, in a weak AFC.
So, this was Greeny threw this out the other day on Get Up, and then I kind of was rolling my eyes at it. But you go and you start to take a look at the numbers. It is kind of wild. There's still a lot of football left to be played, but up to this point, 6 games into the season for Baltimore, when they brought over Derrick Henry, it was one of those that was one of those take a flyer on it, see what happens. Derrick Henry couldn't continue to be the bell cow in Tennessee as far as being the complete offense for Tennessee. It was kind of a good time for them to check out on him and move on. I think Derrick Henry, at least I thought, can't continue to be a guy that is getting so many carries. And that he was going to come over and he was going to prevent Lamar Jackson from having to run the ball as much, and Lamar is going to keep Derrick Henry from having to run the ball as much. That hasn't been the case. Derrick Henry is first in carries. He is first in total yards, 704 yards, 6 games in. It's
pretty good.
He's going to, probably by week 8, he is going to get to that 1,000-yard mark, or at least very dang close. That's how dominant he has been thus far in the season. He's also first in touchdowns, first in yards, first in carries, about 5.9 yards a carry. The dude's unbelievable. Greeny threw out. We've seen the Baltimore Ravens have the MVP on this roster during the Lamar era twice. Could it potentially be the 3rd straight year? Running backs normally don't get this award. We've seen it happen. It's not impossible. It's basically a quarterback award at this point. What's the likelihood that Derrick Henry, if he continues at this pace, is the MVP frontrunner? Just because I don't think there's been a lot of dominant play amongst quarterbacks around the NFL consistently enough to put a QB at the forefront. Could this be the year that Derrick Henry does it, assuming he continues on this path?
How many yards?
No. I think just... Yeah, no. I don't think there's any chance that Derrick Henry would win MVP. If he didn't win it with 2,000 yards with the Titans, running backs are done. There's no chance that a running back can win MVP anymore. We gave it to a quarterback last year that threw for 3,600 yards and 24 touchdowns. Like that's not very good.
So AP was the last one to do it, and he had 2,097 yards.
And Henry did that in Tennessee and did not win.
He had 2,000 yards?
Yes.
Was that the year the Bengals beat him? Was that 2021? When they were the 1 seed?
It might have been.
I think that was the year that they were the 1. Was it before?
Because he got hurt. He was hurt the year they were the 1 seed, and he came back for that Bengals game.
You're right. Okay. 2027, he was Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
AP, yeah.
In 2027?
The other thing, not to just talk about Derrick Henry, but to go back to can the running back win this award, we gave this to Lamar Jackson last year, 3,600 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, when Christian McCaffrey put up insane numbers on the best offense in football in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry could maybe match that, but I still think at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson's going to take a lot of his numbers. Even if he does lead the league in rushing, it's not going to be 2K, which I think is legitimately what you need to be in an MVP conversation as a running back at this point. So,
yeah.
Whether it's rightful or not, and we need to change the name of the award from MVP to best quarterback, but, he has no chance, sadly.
Yeah. And
how many yards would it take?
2,000 to be in the conversation. 2,000
how
bad quarterback.
How many to win it? Because I don't think the quarterback play has been good this year.
I think that's why I think 2,000 would make it close.
I think.
But that's why I think the number doesn't matter. I don't think there's a benchmark number for this. On any other year, I agree with Jacob. It's just like this year seems, and there's a lot of football left to be played. By the way, if the Bengals start winning and Joe Burrow plays like he's been up to this point, he's going to be right up there with C.J. Stroud and all this. I don't know how Patrick Mahomes is still one of the odds-on favorites. His numbers, I mean, they're 5-0, but I don't think he's played like an MVP as far as I'm concerned. But no. But what were you saying, Elliot?
He has 8 touchdowns already this season. The most he's had in a year was 17. It was that 2027 yard season. I think if he gets 20 touchdowns and 2,000 yards, I think he wins it.
Just to put this in perspective, right now Derrick Henry is plus 6,000, tied with Justin Herbert, just behind Caleb Williams.
That's crazy.
Like, there's zero chance.
That's crazy.
Zero chance.
Now,
Speaking of Caleb Williams, hello. Ball player.
Caleb Williams might be good.
Real good.
Might be good.
Real good. Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
just saying.
That's right. I ordered a jersey.
Or the Jaguars might just be the worst team in the history of the league.
Okay, this is 3 weeks in a row. This is 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, but
So Caleb puts up good numbers, they lose. It doesn't matter because they didn't win. Caleb puts up bad numbers and they win. It doesn't matter because he didn't put up good numbers. The win doesn't matter.
Who they play?
And now they play a bad team. He puts up good numbers, and it doesn't matter because it's a bad team. They play a good team. He puts up good numbers. It doesn't matter.
what does a good game translate in U.S. currency?
I guess I think that is
Because that was
is a
in
good
London.
point.
So they've played the Titans. They beat them. He was the worst quarterback I've
Of all
ever seen
time.
in that game.
Of all time.
They lost to the Texans. They lost to
played well in
they
that
lost
game.
to the Colts. They
Played well
beat
in
the
that
Rams
game.
without players. They beat the Panthers without a team. And they beat the Jaguars in a country that doesn't watch football.
Five games in a row. Well, it's Jaguars' home game.
That's true. You're right.
So on the road.
On the road. Okay. All right.
5 games in a row. Putting up
They haven't
good
played
numbers.
anybody good, but all right.
4 touchdowns, 1 interception yesterday for Caleb. Jaden Daniels has 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the season.
Okay.
Stats.
Stats are a hell of a drug.
Sorry, my Caleb Williams love has hijacked
No,
this segment.
rightfully so. But Casey, close us out on the Ravens part.
I was just going to say Lamar currently almost at 2,000 yards. It's 100, 200, 300 more yards than the next closest quarterback or any player. 12 touchdowns. I mean, like, he's probably going to win it again. After 6 games, he's already at 2,000 yards total. Like,
Oh, he's absolutely going to win it again.
he's going to probably get 5,000 yards total, maybe even more, which would be an all-timer.
And then
So.
they lose in the division round, and then all is right in the world.
And then we just run the intro.
And then
That's
we just,
right.
yeah. And then we just, the season.
The
And then we
2024
go right to
season.
Jacobs,
That's right.
and then it's, he'll be MVP, though.
If Lamar wins an MVP this year and they lose in the first round of the playoffs, is the intro the greatest intro of all time? Because you called the red season being over in May.
I did.
He won. I mean, we all know Ginner.
Well, what does Skinner say? I
You
don't think I had a part in that.
Peter said Joe Burrow's better than his guy.
That's right.
I mean, okay.
And
Like
then-
I think it's been
I
pretty
think
solid.
it's been pretty solid. The Browns stink. Okay, so
Worst team in the NFL.
yeah.
we were all right.
Trending that way.
We were all right.
This is good.
No, the worst team in the NFL is the one that Caleb Williams just threw 4 touchdowns against, which is what we just heard Elliott try to discredit it for. Come on, Casey, keep up.
Are we talking about the Browns next? Can we
Oh,
talk about
there
the
we
We are
Browns?
talking about the Browns next. AFC North scoreboard next
right.
up on the
Pierre
again,
Strong had a good game.
Ravens 4-2. They continue their winning ways. All right, next up on the AFC North scoreboard, while the Cleveland Browns streak of failing to score more than 20 points in the game this season continues.
Didn't throw for 200 yards either.
1-5. You want to lead? Do you want to do this?
I was just adding
No,
on.
I think you should. You
I
have a
was
lot
just-
to say.
I was just adding on.
You have a.
Pierre Strong had a couple catches for 35 yards.
Here's
I mean,
how
that's-
this works. Okay. Here's how this works.
I was just seeing it.
I'm gonna set this up.
Okay.
And then you could talk.
Okay, all right.
So
that's
sit
fair.
there and shut up.
Okay.
And let me do my job.
Okay, all right.
Is that okay with you?
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll sit.
This is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous.
20-16, the final. To Elliott, what are your thoughts?
Well,
That was good.
well, Deshaun had a good kick.
Oh,
He
man.
blocked a kick, and he returned it for 6. So that's the positives if you're Deshaun Watson, if you're a fan of him. He did do that.
Deshaun blocked a kick.
Deshaun, yeah, that's it. So if you're a believer in Deshaun Watson, you saw him block that kick and return it for 6.
You know who returned it for 6?
Who's that?
Rodney McLeod.
Really?
His
And
second
here we
touchdown
go.
of
God, you guys know so much about my
the-
team.
Rodney McLeod's second touchdown of the year. You know why that's a little bit funny?
Why is that?
Because that's tied for the team lead.
Oh, no.
Rodney McLeod.
Bengals fans making fun of defensive players scoring touchdowns. That's rich.
Well,
No, special teams.
Really
here's what it is,
embarrassing.
Kenner. I'm not right a lot, but I said before the season that he is the worst quarterback in the NFL, and I am very happy that it has come true. I mean, he's so bad it's scary.
He
They don't
only
move-
had,
they
he
don't
only
move the
had
football
one
at all.
incompletion in the second half. He wasn't bad in the second half.
I don't care. He doesn't throw for 200 yards. He's 14 for 20. What was he? What was he? Let me
16
find
to
it.
16 to
23.
23
16 for 23,
for
160
168.
yards.
168.
160
Give him
yards.
the 8.
Give him
you
the
round
8.
down
The hell's
for-
wrong
for
with you?
weirdos and scumbags.
You know?
So yeah, listen, good for Deshaun. Hopefully those 16 points and 150 yards will carry over to next week.
This is the Super Bowl. This
Yes.
week.
If I
the
lose-
Bengals cannot lose.
If we lose this one,
I'm not coming to work on Monday.
Craig's got a fun stat. They've scored on one of their last 29 offensive drives.
Thanks, Craig.
Wah, wah.
Wow.
They missed a field goal though, to be fair.
They did.
So
That's true.
not everything went right.
No.
In a perfect world, they would have won that one.
Nothing went right.
In a perfect world, they would have got that done. But how many rushers did they use yesterday? 7. How many running backs does it take for the Browns to win a game?
Jerome Ford got hurt because
Okay.
those UC players are just soft. So you know.
I mean, when you come from a
You
program.
making fun of injuries?
No, I'm just saying like
I just thought you were making fun of an injury
You
there.
know, I feel bad for him, but when you're relying on a guy that played in the American Conference to come in and take heavy snaps in the NFL, it's kind of tough.
That's right.
He didn't get them snaps in the Big 12. I just want to remind people. But no, that injury, he got that early. Had a couple big carries early. But outside of that, yeah, Pierre Strong. Foreman was good. Solid, not good for the game, but he had a couple big carries. But overall, the offense was just abysmal. And here's the problem. Like, that defense is back. Like, the Browns' defense is back.
Yeah.
It's playing like it did last year. That game yesterday reminded me of a game last year where it comes down to the final moments because the defense has put you in position and the offense to come down and have an opportunity. I don't know why Stefanski – the only thing I was mad at was that it was 4th down and 17 or whatever. Just take the shot at the end zone. It was like over 3 minutes. Just take the shot at the end zone for a chance to tie it up. I mean, they took the field goal. You were still going to have to score a touchdown no matter what.
Yep.
I would have just gone for the touchdown, but that's how little confidence he had in that particular situation. But it was 20-13, and they settled for the field goal. It was just over 3 minutes, and Jalen Hurts made a beautiful pass to A.J. Brown. It was not covered perfectly, but it still was. It should not have been a catch, but that's
Yeah.
how good of a throw and that's how good of a catch it was by A.J. Brown. No excuses as far as that's concerned.
Hurts played a respectable game. I mean, still not pretty, but better than he has looked at a lot of those deep balls. And certainly helps having Smitty and A.J. Brown back.
I think he looked as good as he could look against that defense because I do think he's. I had the TV setup I had yesterday that was on in one of the corners, and I was just constantly looking over, and it was the Browns defense was doing their thing. So,
Browns defense is fine.
you're one quarterback away.
And
And by the way, I make the joke. I am very concerned about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb torches the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh yeah, Bengals haven't won in
Torches
Cleveland
the
since
Cincinnati
2017.
So I'm
Yeah, 2017.
I'm hoping he's on a snap count. I imagine he will be. Certainly, they're not going to rush him back to full swing.
175 carries for 903 yards and 8 touchdowns in 10 games versus the Bengals in his career, averaging 104 all-purpose yards against Cincinnati.
It's not great, if we're going to be honest.
He's so good.
How many touchdowns?
8 in 10 games.
Yeah. Listen, I'm very concerned about that. If he's on a snap count, we might have a chance to stop that. And if we can stop that, I'm not worried about Deshaun Watson whatsoever. Do not care.
You better be careful. You're pushing.
No, because at some point. Because at some point.
But you're risking.
At some
You better be here Monday, regardless of the result. Because what if Deshaun has like his first really good game of the season?
It would destroy me.
And you'll have to be
If
here.
we lose this game because of Deshaun Watson, it will destroy me. I mean, he's completing passes at 60%, which is fine, I guess. He's got 1,000 yards on the season, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, and he hasn't eclipsed
2 of those
200
against that Giants defense, by the way. How many passing touchdowns your quarterback have last night?
58-yard for a 75-yard rush for a
47.
touchdown.
Science, dude. Watson better than Burrow. It's science.
If we lose that game because Deshaun Watson has 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, I won't be in on Monday.
No, no, I mean, at
I
least
will be. I will. You will not see me again if that happens.
Again?
If Nick Chubb rushes 10 times for 300,
He's done.
Fine. I'll
You
be
won't
in.
see him again.
done.
I'll be in. I will not come back if Deshaun Watson shows up, has a career game, which would be his first career game with Cleveland. He is not. He's yet to have a good game. So
He has, but
in
it's
three
not this
in
season.
3 years, you round down those career games. So I rounded down to 0, whatever the number
enough,
actually
you know.
was. I rounded down all the way to 0.
2-0. That's fair.
Now I will say, if Jameis Winston starts, if they make the right choice and switch quarterbacks,
Stefanski already said they will not.
well, if they change their, I mean, that's what they're saying right now. But I mean, let's give
They
it.
won't,
I don't think they left the
unfortunately.
field yet.
Let's
And
give
he
it
was like, we're not changing.
Let's give it a couple days. And if that happens, if they make the right call and do that, then I take everything back. Then we have a fair game. But
Yeah.
until that game happens, I'm very worried about Nick Chubb. I'm worried about the Cleveland defense. And that's it.
I wouldn't be worried about Nick Chubb yet because I do think there'll be a count, like you said, a snap count. And on top of that, how explosive can he be coming directly off an injury without any kind of lead up to this? That's my concern. Now, I know we talked about a while back about he was technically, I mean, how much was he squatting in the preseason? Was that
Yeah.
stupid video where that bar was like bending and the
Yeah.
head was like, I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm like, technically, he's been putting a lot of weight on that leg. I don't know how explosive he'll be in the first game back. Will he even regain some of that explosiveness at all? Who knows? But nonetheless, if he comes back and has an explosive game against the Bengals, I put his ass on the trade block right away. I dangle him out there. I see who wants him. It won't happen. Just like they won't bench, Deshaun Watson because they're not serious about winning. They'll just say, "Hey, we'll continue to play. We paid you. You're going to play. That's fine." But I could respect. We talked about this last week. The intent was there. Cool. But now every game that he starts moving forward is just on the front office because Jameis Winston can play.
Have
he
you
could
seen
be better than this.
the development of potentially Deshaun's burner on
Oh
Twitter?
yeah, I think the one
That's a fun
yesterday
one.
was that one's a fake. That one I think is there's some fake ones being made to
Correct.
play off of that.
Yes.
But there was some ones earlier in the season that were
Yes.
very strange that were attacking some
And
yeah.
referring to Deshaun strictly as and that guy and all that stuff.
The guy,
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
no, Jameis Winston, and again, before I really didn't care about the quarterback change because I didn't think the defense is playing well. But the last 2 weeks, that defense has played lights out. This Browns team they're good enough to win a lot of football games with that defense if you make a change at quarterback. And until they do that, this is what it's going to be every single week. I anticipate the way that game looked against Philadelphia Sunday, it's the same game that we're going to watch this Sunday against the Bengals. I think your game with the Giants yesterday, it's going to be the same game against the Browns this coming up weekend. I don't think Joe will be as poor as what he was last night, but I think it's going to be another ugly game that comes down to the final moments.
What's the weather supposed to be good, right? No rain excuse.
I have no idea.
Who knows? Who knows?
I feel like it's a little early to look at weather.
You think so?
Changes all the time.
I don't think so. Let's look at the weather. We're gonna still stay on this segment. Nobody's going to break yet.
Well, we'll play the game.
Nobody's going to
Does
break
the
yet.
weather change by Saturday or by Sunday?
Nope, Sunday's good.
Right now
Sunday's
it's at
perfect.
64 and cloudy.
Sunday's great. It's great weather.
We'll continue to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
In Cleveland,
If
Cincinnati.
it gets worse, I'll do a weather report.
According to ESPN Bet, Cincinnati opens as a 4.5-point favorite.
Right now, it is raining and 53 degrees in Cleveland.
There you go. All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We close out the AFC North scoreboard conversation with the Steelers win over the Raiders yesterday. We'll get to that when we come back. Plus, we'll talk a little MLB playoffs. The Guards somehow pulled it off. The Guards, they got to the ALCS. That's horrendous for me. I hate that. Go Yanks. We'll be right back. Off the Bench next. All right, we are back, closing out our AFC North scoreboard conversation. We talked about the Browns continue to lose. They're 1-5 in the season. They're dead last in the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals, of course, we spent the majority of the show there. They get the win last night, Sunday Night Football, 17-7, the final over the Giants. The Ravens get a big 7-point win over the Washington Commanders, and now that leaves the Steelers, who they put up 32 points. They put up 32 points yesterday. They beat the Raiders in Las Vegas 32-13, and they improved to 4-2 on the season. Now, again, they have their own problems over there as far as, not really problems, but they have their dilemma. They have a dilemma with quarterback. You have Russell Wilson, who's ready to play, who's ready to rock, apparently. Justin Fields, they've won 4 games with him this season, 6 games in as the starting quarterback. I don't think he's been elite. I don't think he's been very, very good. I think he's been okay. I think he was okay yesterday. 14 to 24, 145 yards. He didn't turn the ball over, so okay. But they put up 32 points, and they pick up their 4th win of the season. They're 4-2, 6 weeks in. It's a good win yesterday on the road. It's annoying, but the Steelers, once again, find a way to win a football game.
It's just always annoying. And when it comes crashing down, I can't wait for it to happen. I'm so tired of this fraudulent team. It's great that they win 9 times every year. No, there is not a 1% chance, not a 0.5% chance. There is a 0.0000% chance that the Pittsburgh Steelers win a Super Bowl with this roster. 0. None. Negative. The issue is they might occupy a playoff spot and kill the Bengals. That would be my nightmare scenario. The Steelers cannot make the playoffs this year. The Bengals have to beat them twice, have to take care of business. They're not a good team offensively. They're woeful. I mean, they are flat out woeful. Justin Fields, say whatever you want about him. 11 carries, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's great. He's not a good quarterback. We can say whatever we want. We can put him in whatever situation you want. He's not a good passer. He's not. He can run around. He's great at running the ball. He's great. In a Tim Tebow sort of way, you can maybe work him out in an offense. Put him in wild. We'll make the Wildcat great again, and we'll use Justin Fields. But I am tired of watching this offense. Ugh, it's disgusting, and they're terrible. They're terrible. They win games. They're 4-2, and I can't knock them for beating bad teams because the Bengals lost to the Patriots. It would be hypocritical. But man, that team isn't good, and they're 4-2. And that's why it makes me so upset that the Bengals are 2-4 right now. Because you could be so much, but you're such a better team than the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Just put up 32 on the Raiders. I think that offense is looking pretty good. If you can score 30 points with that defense, you're going to win a lot of football games. And I think that's exactly what Justin Fields provides. Saw a lot of clips yesterday of that offensive line quite literally not knowing where they're at. I mean, Broderick Jones doesn't know when the ball's snapped, and there's free rushers every single play. I think if you have any other quarterback back there with any kind of less mobility than Justin Fields, I think he's getting killed and you're not moving the ball. Justin Fields has been able to consistently move the ball this year, has the Steelers sitting at 4-2. They're going to be pesky. They're going to continue to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat and muck it up against the teams that are better than them. So I think the Steelers are going to stay happily in the mix all year long. They're going to be sitting right around that 9-10 win mark, right in the mix for maybe even the AFC North, and certainly right in the mix for the playoffs. They're going to be, if the Bengals can't take care of business twice, they're going to be a team that probably occupies one of those spots, like Elliot just said. But, yeah, I think 2 touchdowns on the ground is absolutely the story for Justin Fields yesterday. 11 carries for 59 yards, over 5.5 yards per carry. It's exactly what you want out of him in that offense. And to see Najee Harris actually make a difference for really the first time since his rookie year, over 100 yards in his first touchdown of the season, looked like a different runner than he has for the last few years. So great to see that as well. I think the Steelers team's going to be okay. Certainly nothing special. Definitely a 0% chance to win the Super Bowl. But if you can, beat the Jets, Giants, and then just lose to the teams you're supposed to lose to, I think we're probably looking at a playoff team.
The way you prop up Justin Fields is the same stuff that you criticize Lamar Jackson for. I think that's why I just can't get on the Justin Fields.
Yeah, but Lamar's paid to be better. I don't expect Justin Fields to win a Super Bowl. That's the difference. Like, I'm grading Lamar on I expect the Ravens to win a Super Bowl. I expect him to be a Super Bowl quarterback. I expect Justin Fields to get the Steelers to the playoffs.
But any team that goes and gets a quarterback should have the expectation of this quarterback needs to come in to help us win a Super Bowl. And this is always my knock. And I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you. I'm not putting Fields on the same ground as Lamar Jackson, but it's a knock at the Steelers for, are you ever going to aim to try to get a quarterback to compete at that level? Because that's why, again, all Mike Tomlin cares about is that 500 record every single year. Don't care if we get knocked out early in the playoffs. Hey, at least I can go down and say, hey, 500 every single season. So from that perspective, I agree with Jacob on. From that perspective, yes, Fields is doing what he's being asked to do. He's going out there. He's not losing his team the game. But, again, when are the Steelers going to demand excellence from that position? Leader of men that Mike Tomlin is. They're perfectly content with just average production from the most important position in football. And hey, if that's what gets Mike Tomlin those 500, that 500 record every year, I guess more power to you. I know we've had this debate before. We don't really need to get into that side of it, but man, oh man, yes, from that perspective, Fields, especially when you talk about how bad that offensive line is. I mean, he was only sacked 3 times yesterday, but how many sacks would have happened yesterday if Russell Wilson's the quarterback
Right.
because of the lack of mobility? That I agree with you, and that could be one reason why he is still out there as long as he is.
Mr. Mo doing the Lord's work in the chat. Justin Fields has been better than Patrick Mahomes so far this year. 66% completion, 5 touchdown to 1 interception with 1,100 yards in the air and a 93 quarterback rating. Mahomes 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 1,200 yards and an 88 quarterback rating. Fields has been good this year. There's no other way to spin it.
He's not better than Patrick Mahomes.
No, he's
even
not.
Close.
Not even
Like,
close.
okay.
I'm saying he's been fine this year, though.
No, he's
Patrick Mahomes is number 1 on the
He's been
MVP
serviceable,
odds.
but there's nobody that thinks Justin Fields is a good quarterback.
I think he's a fine quarterback.
What out of how many quarterbacks would you take over Justin
Less
Fields?
than 20.
He's not a starting quarterback, though.
Oh, I think he absolutely is.
Oof.
I think he absolutely is.
With what the expectations of a starting quarterback are, that's a starting quarterback?
I think he can get you to the playoffs.
But he can never win a Super Bowl.
But I don't think every quarterback in the league is expected to win a Super Bowl.
No, and I don't think they're expected to win the
Right.
Super Bowl. My point is that team has, like, usually most teams in the NFL have somewhat of a shot if things go their way. Yada yada yada. I think there's no scenario in any world where this Pittsburgh offense is good enough to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. He has
Oh,
100,
no
he has
scenario
100
in the world,
He has
obviously.
100 more passing yards than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He has the same total touchdowns as Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson has a better completion percentage. And we know how bad Deshaun Watson is. I know
Well,
there's other metrics that can go and
Deshaun's
paint a
passer
different
rating?
picture. I know.
in
I
the
know.
70s?
I get that, but I'm just saying, like, we're gonna use the simple stats to say Fields is right up there with Patrick Mahomes.
No.
but then
Fields has a
discredit-
94 passer rating. Mahomes has an 88. I said all the stats.
I know. I'm just saying in general.
He's better than Deshaun Watson. That's what I'm saying.
Is he?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Every
he?
every
Yes.
quarterback has been.
Would you take? So you take Fields over Watson right now?
Yeah.
1
no question
million
about
percent,
it.
and
Yeah.
it's not remotely close.
It's close.
There's not a quarterback in the
No.
league I'd take below
Dude,
Deshaun Watson.
talent-wise,
There's 2 on the Raiders and 2 on the Colts I'd take above
It's
Deshaun
not
Watson.
like I make the Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson a bit because I think it's funny to make fun of that guy because I really don't like him. But he's been truly woeful this year. He's been talent-wise, outside of Aiden O'Connell. I'm trying to think of. I'd take Drake May over him. I'd literally take every quarterback over
Both
him.
of the Colts quarterbacks.
Maybe not Bryce Young. Maybe not Bryce.
No
Young.
Bryce. Andy?
I'd take Andy over him. 100%. I'd take Andy Dalton over him right now.
I think
And
the
that's
Browns,
just talent.
The
I
Browns
don't-
are 1-5 with Justin Fields at quarterback, just as much as they're 1-5.
No
with
way.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I
Way.
disagree
No
with that.
way.
Way.
No way.
What's Fields doing
disagree
that
with
Deshaun
that.
is not? What's he going
all
to
those
do?
all those stats
with
that he
all
just
the
said.
with all
and
the
I was
problems-
just making fun of Justin Fields.
Those passes.
But
that,
now I have to come back and defend
those passes that Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy consistently drop. They catch those for Justin Fields.
If you're asking me if I think the Browns would have more wins with Justin Fields than they do with Deshaun Watson, I think they absolutely would.
Based on what?
I think the offensive line has been terrible. I think Fields would get you more on the ground. I think Fields would be better than the worst EPA quarterback of all time. I mean, I think literally any quarterback would elevate this Browns offense pretty considerably.
But the Browns haven't been losing just because of quarterback play. They can't run the football. They can't block.
And I think a lot of that is
the
because
receivers,
no one
when
respects
Deshaun
the
does throw
quarterback
really
play.
good passes, the receivers just straight up drop them. He had a beautiful pass yesterday that would have extended the drive to give him a chance to score a touchdown. Penalties bring them back. The drop pass again in a crunch time situation of a game. They catching that for Justin Fields. They catch
think
that.
the Browns
Penalties
blame-
don't happen. Penalties don't happen when Justin Fields is out there. This team's just magically healthier because Justin Fields is out there. I think this team, built as is right now, with all the issues they've had from week 1 to now, are 1-5 with Fields and 1-5 with Deshaun Watson. I don't think it matters.
I think the Browns blame starts and ends with Deshaun Watson. He's the reason they're bad. He's the reason they'll continue to be bad.
Yeah.
Then you don't watch the Browns because he's not good by any means. He is not.
He's
the
the worst
solution.
quarterback of all time.
He is
so far
not the
this year.
solution.
Statistically
Yeah.
of all time.
Statistically, but when you also lead the league in drop passes, those passes that are caught that are perfectly right in your hands, that helps, and
It's
that takes
not
you out
enough
of that
to
equation.
swing you from worst all time to serviceable.
It
I-
clearly is with Justin Fields.
I think there's like 27 quarterbacks that would have more than one win than Deshaun Watson has with Cleveland. And again, that's
He didn't score an offensive touchdown last week.
he hasn't thrown for 200 yards. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. And that's
a
again
lot of quarterbacks struggle to throw for over 200 yards in this NFL. That's and
how many
by the way,
quarterbacks have not done that this year?
Yeah, that happens
try to find
weekly. It happens every single week. There's a lot of QBs that struggle to. Joe Burrow barely threw for over 200 yards last.
Got
night.
over it, though.
And he has Jamar Chase, who is God,
But he
and
has
T.
all
Higgins,
year.
who is Jesus.
And
so
Watson hasn't thrown for over 200 all year long.
I get that.
Has there been? Who are the quarterbacks that haven't done that? That have started every game and haven't eclipsed 200 once?
I don't know. It's got to be a short list.
I don't know how we find that information.
I'm not arguing Deshaun's top 10 or any of this, but his team has not done anything to really help him either on the offensive side of the ball. He's not as blessed as everyone to have a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins and all the help that some quarterbacks
I'd
do.
probably put him at QB 36 or 7 this year. 35.
Yeah, I mean it's
Well, both the quarterbacks in Green Bay, both the quarterbacks in Indianapolis.
Maybe not both the quarterbacks in Las Vegas.
I would take Minshew. I wouldn't take OC, but I guess they're taking OC over Minshew, so I will take them both.
It's just not. It's like I think that Justin Fields is better than Jameis Winston, and I think Jameis Winston wins
Is better
games.
than-
I think Jameis
yeah,
Winston wins
yeah.
games with Cleveland, and I think I also think.
Good point. Both quarterbacks in Atlanta.
Yeah, both quarterbacks. I do think there's a point though, and we can make fun of the drops, and that's a fair point. 100% a fair point.
It's not making fun of the drops. That's,
No.
That's a
You're
valid point.
making-
If
you're
Jamar
making-
Chase and T. Higgins dropped a lot of passes,
Sure.
that would be all your fan base would cry about. Oh, Joe Burrow threw a perfect pass and they
But I'm
dropped
going to say
it.
something, and there's no statistical, there's no statistical backing of this point. But I do think there is something to when your team is playing for a guy that the whole world hates, and that everybody in the NFL and probably the locker room hates. I'm not going to speak for the Cleveland locker room because I don't know that information. But I'd imagine it's probably not all peaches and roses in that locker room at the moment. I imagine doing your job gets harder by the week when you consistently see your front office pick a guy that everybody knows isn't the answer. I think that goes into some of those drops.
You start to quit on the team when you put the second best quarterback on the field.
Yeah, I think that does go into play with it. I cheered for the Cleveland Browns last season in the postseason. I did. Casey can at least vouch for me on that one. I cheered for Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns.
So Amari Cooper is like, I'm going to catch this. Screw it. It's Deshaun. I'm just going to drop it.
Listen, I know there's
This is some weird stuff.
I
This
know
is
there's
some
no
weird mental
certainly think
gymnastics.
that's taking place.
I know there's
Absolutely.
no.
I want to catch it.
I know there's
forget
no
it. It's
statistical
Deshaun.
backing.
That
That's
team
the
is
stupidest
quitting on
thing I've
Deshaun.
ever heard in my life.
I know
that team is quitting.
I
on
know
Deshaun.
there's no statistical backing for my point. I'm just saying.
That's letting everyone else off the hook if you just say Amari Cooper is going to catch
I think
it. But
you're letting
because of
Deshaun
who's-
off the hook.
Oh, no, I'm not. Deshaun has been asked. I've been calling for them to sit there and put in Jameis Winston, but I've also been saying from week one that if Jameis Winston throws the damn football to Amari Cooper, he's going to drop it just like he's been dropping for Deshaun. It doesn't matter who's throwing these guys the football.
I think it
They
does.
lead the league in drops. Deshaun's not throwing the ball so damn hard that these guys can't catch the football.
The Browns
they
would not
lead
be
the
1-4
league in
without
drops. It has
Jameis
nothing to do with who's throwing them the football.
I think it does.
If Amari Cooper has sucked this year, so has Jerry Jeudy. When the ball's right in your hands, you catch it. It doesn't matter who's throwing it to you. I could go back there and throw the ball to Jerry Jeudy, to Amari Cooper, and if it's right in your damn hands, you better catch it. It's not because it's Justin Kinner throwing you the football that you decide you don't want to catch it. You catch the damn football.
If we don't think the Browns will be better with any other quarterback, then we're in a lost argument.
I do think they'd be better with another quarterback, but I don't think that the Browns' whole problems go away and that they win a lot more football games. They're 1-5 with Justin Fields at quarterback, Gardner Minshew at quarterback, and all the other average quarterbacks that you're throwing out
Heavily
there that act like
disagree.
they're the savior.
Heavily disagree.
Boy, does Sunday gonna matter? Oh my goodness!
I can't wait, especially because you're going to be gone. You're going to leave.
if Sunday goes into Sean's way, if it goes,
Shreds this defense.
boy, I just can't.
Boy,
show
I
up.
tell you, I swear when Joe
We're
Burrow
gonna go to Elliott's house.
yes, outside of Elliott's house.
I'm glad I was the first to break Kinner. I
heartbeat's going
take
boom, boom,
great
boom,
pride
boom.
in that. I was the first. Look at his face. Look at how red his face is. That is. I'm just telling you right now. It's easier to do your job when there's somebody that's throwing you a ball who you actually respect and like and care for. That's just my opinion. There's no statistical backing.
There was a mutiny in
for
New
my
England.
point.
The offense looked better this week.
Correct. I'm just telling you right now that I do think that does come into play at some point. I could be wrong, but again, that's just my opinion. If I came into work every day and I hated Casey and Jacob and you, I would come in here and I'd pout and I'd sit here and you'd throw, hey Elliot, what's your thoughts on the Browns? And I'd go, man, whatever, man. And I'd just sit here and I'd pout. And
I'd be like, Elliot, I put it right in your hands.
you don't think it's at least a little bit plausible that some of the Browns right now are pouting and that they are just looking at this and being like, what are we even doing here? And you're going to throw me a ball, who cares?
So why is it last year and the year before that when he was bad, they were playing for him? Why
I
is
think
it
they
this
played
year
harder when
decide-
Flacco took over last year.
I think they played absolutely better when Joe
They were
Flacco
actually,
took
the
over.
offense was playing better. The defense was great all year. The defense was great all year. The Browns are 5-1.
I still think the Browns defense is pretty good.
They were 5-1 with him at quarterback last year. I don't understand that. I mean, I don't get it. But I'm going to stop yelling, and we're going to wrap it up here today because I got to save some of my yelling for tomorrow for delusional Buckeye fans.
Well, at least you don't like have another show you have to do live on air here for the next few
we'll
hours.
have a couple hours to calm down. Good,
Casey,
Elliot. It's been a while. I've always let it just go, and today you got me.
Well, it
me.
seemed like the energy was a little lower today after a big win. I needed to get it back up.
I had to match Tom's energy
boy.
before he left today. I had to match Tom's energy. I love Tom. I had to match Tom's energy before he left today.
That's right. That's right. Should we do that to close out the show?
We should. Listen,
No.
Yes, but no.
Okay, fair.
Bengals win 17-7.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
That is all that matters.
It's all that matters. It comes down to Sunday at 1 o'clock.
The big show.
Boy.
You know what? I'm gonna invite. Can I jump on Chatterbox Bengals at halftime, depending on how the game is going? If it's going in my favor,
absolutely.
I'll jump on with you. If it's going not in my favor,
No. If we're going to do that, we both have to agree that you're going to come on at halftime no matter what.
fair enough. Not the whole show.
Because
just-
otherwise I'll pull it if we're down, and otherwise you'll pull it if you're down.
fair enough. All right.
I'll make that agreement.
Okay.
Halftime, I'll send you a link. You come on. All right. Oh,
there you go. I will have a
That
couple.
might suck.
I would have had a few drinks by then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
that's
okay.
fine. That's fine. We'll lock in.
All right.
It's going to be a big old game on
Could
Sunday.
do like
Big
the start
old
of the
game.
fourth quarter, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Whatever
know if
you-
I want him
whatever
on
you
at that point. Halftime, I can at least talk myself into a comeback if it's going poorly.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for us on
what
the radio
what
side.
can the wager be? Can we make a friendly wager? Since he offered a different kind of wager, but is there a wager that we have for this game?
Do you have the Browns and Bengals helmets?
Yep.
Are they real helmets, or are they like the signed ones with the paper in the middle?
No, they're real helmets.
Okay, I'll wear the Browns helmet for the full 2-hour show if we lose. That'll hurt my neck.
If the Bengals lose, I'll think of something by the end of the week. I'll think of a punishment by the end of the week.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that wraps it up for us on the.
That's a good one.
It is.
It's a
I'm
good
fine
one
with
today.
that. What do I have to do though if the Bengals win?
We'll decide that as well. We got a week to decide.
Let the
this.
chat decide. Not decide. Let
Oh
the
boy,
chat suggest.
chat! You get to decide.
Yeah,
what
So
the punishment
we're
is
going
for
to
Kinner.
not decide. They get to-
Highest money super chat. Kinner will do it.
No, I'm not pimping myself out for some crazy. All right, that wraps it up on the radio side. Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. It was right in their hands, right in their hands.
Chat's taking it. They said Bengals win, you're out.
I saw one that says you have to eat poop.
I'm not eating poop.
You're not 3, 2,
I'm
1
not
null
that
in
fan.
this?
Yeah, I'm not that weirdo dude that did that or didn't do it or said he would and then didn't do it.
Oh,
Are we
man.
off? We're off, right? Well, not off. I mean, we're off
not
radio.
even close to off.
No, we're off radio, I mean.
No, I think we're still on
don't
radio,
think we
aren't
are.
we?
I lost track.
I think we're on the radio.
Oh, that wraps it up. Until tomorrow, this is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner Show coming up next. Is my face still red?
Our dear friend Craig just sent me a QB stack comparison for Fields and Watson, and Fields is better at everything. That rocks. Oh, shout out Craig. I love you, buddy.
Let me look at
That's
this.
big time.
So Deshaun has more completions and
And
attempts because they're losing in every game they have to keep throwing. But he is literally worse at every single other thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Craig.
He only has one touchdown? That's not
Can
bad.
I'll say something positive
it's
for
rushing
Deshaun
touchdown.
Watson.
Never mind.
I'll say something
Oh,
positive.
by the way, hold time out. Mr. I'm tired. Mr. I have no energy. Mr. I'm flat and don't feel it today. Sure, Casey, let's talk. What do you got to say?
in.
Look at that smile. Look
Why
at
don't
that
you
face.
ramble?
Yes,
Why don't you ramble?
You know what? Deshaun has played 6 full games. That's the most he's ever played in a single season with the
That's
Browns.
true.
Hey!
Deshaun. He's gonna play 7, maybe. We'll find out.
The best ability is availability, unless you're Deshaun Watson.
I'd sit that one out.
What?
Joe Burrow's missed a lot of time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And
What?
the best ability for Joe Burrow is to be available.
Correct.
The Browns benefit if Deshaun Watson misses time.
I misheard. I misheard. what you
The
The
said.
best ability
I
is
thought it was something
availability.
else. I thought you said something
Deshaun's
else.
available,
And that hurts
and
the
that
team.
destroys them.
When's your next champion show?
Thursday. Good thing you asked. We're giving away Bengals tickets. Bengals versus Eagles. See you guys there.
Maybe Kinner comes this week.
I hope Kinner comes this week. Kinner told me he'd come to one.
Maybe I'll bring the helmets this week.
Please.
Oh, that'd be good.
Bring
I'll bring the
so
shoulder
could
pads. We can
bring
just
the
do an
shoulder
Oklahoma
pads.
drill.
Again, I want to make it very clear. The Browns are not my most hated team in the AFC North. They're not.
They are with Deshaun Watson at quarterback.
They are with their quarterback. I despise your quarterback so much that I will be cheering on Sunday like I've never cheered for a Bengals game in my life. I swear to God. I will be cheering for 55-0. If Deshaun Watson has even remotely a decent game, I will be sick to my stomach. If they win 30-10 and he throws for 200 yards, I'll be pissed. I want 140 yards by Deshaun Watson and 3 interceptions.
Are you super mega whale playing alt line Deshaun under 200 passing
Yes.
yards?
Yeah. I don't know how I can do that. Whatever his number is.
It's going to be like 195.
Under, and I'm going to take the Bengals alternate spread too.
Ooh.
Whatever that. I don't know, what's the spread at? Whose line is it anyway? Do we have that information?
Alternate spread yesterday. I had Bengals minus 9.5. Felt good to get that 10-point win. Hit all 5 legs in a 6-leg parlay. The only leg I missed. Jamar Chase first quarter receiving yards.
Oh boy.
Yeah, doozy.
Bengals are 4.5 point.
The
The Bengals are 4.5 point favorites over the Browns. 4.5 point favorites over the.
Guys, there's something you guys don't. You guys
opened at 5.5.
You guys don't get to experience this like I do. There's just some things that Elliot says that I always know when he's trying to twist it, because he's always looking at his laptop, and then he does this casual thing where he doesn't move his head, his eyes just move up from the laptop. He moves his eyes up just to see.
He's ready.
Kind of see what I'm doing, see how I'm reacting. You won today.
I did.
You did good.
I beat you.
You won today.
You did good.
I beat you.
Got me.
I was 1-0 against Skinner today, and I'm very happy.
But yeah.
Watch his connection. Casey, throw me that bottle. And this is because I like Casey, not because of who he is. Boom. See how easy that was? And that's because I like him. Right?
Oh, let me throw it to you.
No, I don't think I know how that game's going to go.
There we
So you
go.
like each other. So
See how that is? See how that direct?
Yeah. Here, we'll show it again.
Yeah,
That's what
please.
it looks like.
God, drop it.
I won't drop it. I'll never drop it as long as he throws to me because I like him. 2 for 2.
That's friendship.
Already better than
That's
Deshaun.
respect.
It is.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anything else happen wild over the weekend?
Ohio
Nope.
State lost.
Nope.
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 Actually
Alabama
didn't.
almost
Oregon?
lost. How would that have
I
happened?
hammered Oregon.
Just a glimpse into my soul, handling that Alabama win way worse than the Ohio State loss. Way worse. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Because in college football, that stuff matters.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
The Ohio State's loss was better than Alabama's win.
By
That
a
matters in
mile.
college football.
Yeah.
Like, from that perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I'm real scared about the tie.
Did you guys know what Oregon was doing with that 12-man on the field situation?
That was not on purpose.
That wasn't on purpose.
We're saying that wasn't on purpose.
Elliot, that was not on purpose.
It was not on purpose.
That wasn't on purpose.
No.
I
They
saw it
could
was on
they could
purpose.
claim it and act like it, and that, more power to them.
Because it's genius if it is.
Do you
What
think
is that?
Dan Lanning's prime Bill Belichick? Like, it's not on purpose.
Okay,
It
I'm
was
just
a
saying.
mistake out of a timeout.
I got a question.
That
What if they would have put 13 guys out? Because if you're going to do it,
If it's on purpose, why don't you put 18 guys on the field?
that's what. Well, that's what. But if you did that, then I think
Pre-snap, they could have blown it dead.
correct.
Which I still don't understand how it's not a pre-snap penalty, but I digress. Also not offensive pass interference, but again. I
Also,
digress.
why did the clock run? What's the rule on that? Why did the clock run after the OPI, or not the OPI?
It was the OPI.
It was the OPI.
It was
yeah.
the OPI.
Why did the clock run on that?
And they gave the explanation to. I will have the explanation for tomorrow's show because I wasn't prepared.
I mean, it
for
wasn't a
today,
pre-snap
apparently.
penalty. It would.
But is
the
that
time
so?
would-
But Jake, is that if they're saying it was a pre-snap penalty? So
No,
they're
the
saying
pass
it wasn't a
interference
pre-snap
was not.
penalty.
Pass interference is not a pre-snap penalty, so
Oh.
the clock would run
But why did it run after? I guess.
because there was no stoppage at that point.
I thought it
It was a complete. If it was an incomplete pass, the clock would have stopped.
Okay.
So it would have just reset, and you ran the ball after the incomplete pass. Since it was a completed pass, the clock runs.
Okay.
I'll double check for tomorrow. That was at
And-
least my understanding.
I got into this debate with Buckeye fans. Like, I'm just tired of every time Ohio State loses, that fan base has to always blame officiating. Like,
Yeah.
there was a lot of bad decisions that were made down
There
that
were.
stretch. I can't get on board with blaming officiating. Do I think it was an egregious push off? No. But anytime the arms extend, you're vulnerable to that. Not saying it's right or wrong. The arms got extended. You're vulnerable to it. It sucks. But there was a lot of other miscues down the stretch that I have, and we'll talk more tomorrow, but the stuff with Will Howard down the stretch, who was perfect.
Yeah.
This reminded me a lot of our Joe Burrow discussions in previous weeks because Will Howard was lights out, but I was very critical of Will Howard in that final drive, whatever, and it reminded me, a lot of people were like bringing up how perfect he was before, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the Joe Burrow debate about, like, he's great all game, but that one mistake
I do
late in
think
the
the
game.
difference with that in comparing Will Howard to Joe Burrow is we know Will Howard is never going to be perfect. And that's the reason Ohio State put $20 million into an NIL roster, is so that he doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
And then we go into the hardest game of the year and we ask him to be perfect.
I don't know if you saw it. So when Oregon, we were texting for a bit, and then I just stopped texting everybody because I was getting pissed, and I started to get anxious towards the end of that. When Oregon hit the field goal to go up, the camera pans over to him. And a lot of times, like, you'll see Joe Burrow, big-time quarterbacks, when they have to go out on the field to lead their team from behind on a final drive, they put the helmet on and they have this, like, let's go face. He looked scared shitless. He looked like he just kind of looked and shook his head, and he just kind of looked just off, walking off. And I was like, oh, we're losing this game. And then sure enough, the very first play of that final drive, he goes back. There's defense coming at him. Wasn't even touched, tripped, and fell backwards. And I'm like, oh, crap, here we go. Made a couple good throws. He was able to march him down the field a little bit. But it wasn't just on him on that one. I got to understand, like, you have an earpiece, right? So when he says, that's thanks to that cheating team up north, now you're allowed to communicate with your quarterback with the earpiece.
Tell him the time.
So how was he confused? He said he was not sure of the time at the end, and he slid to give his kicker enough time to get a kicker. There was no communication between Chip Kelly or Ryan Day and their quarterback. Like, there's a lot that we'll question tomorrow.
I got something for you. If he would have gotten down, if Howard would have kneeled down with 1 second left, called a timeout, what was the faith in your heart that your kicker would have made that kick?
Pretty high.
Really?
Yeah, you would have been inside right around the 28 at that point. The bad thing is when you look at the screenshot of 1st and 10 right before the OPI, and then the Georgia game, the ball's in the exact same spot.
Really?
Yeah. 29 to 31 yard line.
But you know what, Ryan Day?
same exact.
You know what, Jacob, though? Ryan Day didn't quit on Will Howard. He let Will Howard go out there to try to make
That's
a
true.
play. He
He
didn't bring
did.
out the kicking unit like
did.
Elliott said. He didn't quit.
No, and I do not blame. We'll get into it tomorrow, but I am not out on Ryan Day after that one. No, that I still have a lot of faith in Ryan Day in this team. So
Loss doesn't hurt
yeah,
him.
No, it's
Loss
fine.
doesn't
They're
hurt him.
fine. They got to win out and get a rematch. And you're all good to go.
That's right.
They're going to beat Penn State anyways and be in the top 4 again. Like,
It's well, they're in the top 4 now.
are they? I thought they were 5.
No, they're 4.
Okay, well.
They're
The
ahead.
coach,
Again, it doesn't
what,
matter.
what you saw, the coaches poll has them at 5. The AP, they're at 4.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we just pick one of the 2 polls that doesn't matter at all, and then just make it matter
That's
for
right.
about 5 weeks until the poll that does matter comes out.
That's right.
November
College
5th.
football has no idea what.
November 5th is a huge day in this country.
Yeah, first week of action.
The first week of action, and the first college football playoff poll comes out.
That's right.
And then we find out who ruins our country for the next 4 years. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day. So there you go.
Man.
All right, that wraps it up for us.
Can't wait for Sunday. Cannot wait for Sunday.
Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. In his damn hands, dude. It was in his hands.